Chapter 2348. Yuan Tiangong. In the Yellow region, there was a divine realm, but it was not material. It was a huge tree that gave people the feeling that it could hold up heaven and earth. It exuded an ancient and vicissitude aura that existed with heaven and earth. Every leaf of the giant tree was tens of thousands of miles long, and a vast palace complex was built on it. Jianmu. After the Ji people's first ancestor became a venerable sovereign, the Ji people followed suit and moved the Ji people's base, the Jianmu, from the heavenly sound realm to the yellow region of the Hunyuan heaven realm. However, the Ji people's first ancestor was like a flash in the pan. Not only was he killed by a supreme transcendent, but he was also possessed by a demon race expert. The Ji people were also unlucky. The Ji people, who used to be arrogant, were now facing the end of the world. Outside the Jinmu, they were surrounded by Yuan Tiangong experts. The Ji people were temporarily shackled in the Jinmu and would be uprooted in a few days. Those cultivators who were attached to the Ji clan were also treated as spies of the Devil clan. All of them were shackled, and because it was a decree personally issued by the Supreme Sovereign, they were all captured and brought into the Jinmu. What awaited them was the same as the Ji clan's people, the fate of being killed. When a man achieves the Tao, his chickens and dogs will also ascend to heaven. However, at the same time, it also meant that when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Whoosh, Su Fong appeared outside the Jinmu. The purpose of his trip was to save the people of the Blue Dome Star Domain. Although the Blue Dome Star Domain Lord and the others were heartless, Xian Lingzi had pleaded for mercy. In addition, Su Fong also planned to recruit a large number of experts. Naturally, they would not sit by and watch. Therefore, they personally came to the Jinmu, where the Ji people lived. Looking at the tall Jinmu, Su Fong thought of the past when he had defeated the Ji people and could not help but sigh. Shu Yunkong and Xian Lingzi saw the miserable scene of the Ji people with the help of Su Fong's divine power. They were also very emotional. The monstrous hatred in the past disappeared at this moment. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 100 Yuan Tiangong heaven punishers guarding the Ji people discovered the Su Fong and immediately flew over. Just as they were about to interrogate Su Fong, the leader of the imperial people immediately recognized Su Fong. His expression instantly changed as he cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Saint Su Fong." The other heaven punishers also bowed to Su Fong. Su Fong's status as the Holy Sun had not been revoked. In addition, Su Fong was currently an important figure who was responsible for the safety of the myriad worlds. No matter what happened in the future, his current status was incomparably noble. Even Emperor Realm Masters would not dare to touch him in the slightest. Thus, these heaven punishers were extremely respectful to him. "I came to Ji people to take a look." Su Fong waved his hand and flew straight to the Jinmu. The imperial people hurriedly led the way in front. He used his token to open the barrier around the builder tree and entered the interior. "Since I'm here, I have to pay a visit to Mo Fenghua's parents no matter what." Su Fong told the imperial people that he did not need to accompany him. He flew straight to the back of the builder tree alone and arrived on a desolate and cold leaf. "Seniors, Su Fong is here to pay his respects." Su Fong respectfully kowtowed 3 times to the dried-up lake. Su Fong was quite touched by Mo Shangsong and Ji Bing's past. Furthermore, Ji Bing had used her spiritual essence to help him. Thus, Su Fong respected the two of them from the bottom of his heart. Then, Su Fong released Xian Lingzi, Count Chong, and Ling Xiangmei. The 3 of them felt a wave of sadness again. Xian Lingzi's tears flowed down his face as he said to the empty lake, "Heavens, do you see this? Fenghua has avenged you and Ji Bing. If you are here, you will definitely feel extremely gratified." Suddenly, Su Fong's eyebrows furrowed, and the light of deduction surged in his eyes. Unknowingly, 2 figures walked out of the void side by side. One of them was a young man wearing a yellow Taoist robe. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and he was extraordinarily handsome. The other woman had a peerless appearance and was otherworldly. They were Mo Shangsong and Ji Bing. However, they did not really exist. If Su Fong did not have the divine power of the heavenly prying eye, he would not have been able to see their existence. Mo Shansong looked at Su Fong with an empty gaze. I have a death grudge with the Ji people. However, Ji Bing is my wife. After all, she was born in the Ji people. I cannot bear to see the Ji people being exterminated. Please let the ordinary people of the Ji people go. Let the Ji people go. Su Fong furrowed his brows. Ji Bing bowed to Su Fong. The Ji people are arrogant and despotic in the divine realm. They have done all kinds of evil. Today, they have only themselves to blame. Please give me some face and let the Ji people go. I do not ask you to let all the Ji people go. I will be eternally grateful if you let those innocent people go. Su Fong sighed. Since the two seniors have spoken, how can I not obey? Su Fong, we did not misjudge you. Your benevolence will bring you good fortune. Mo Shansong smiled and pulled Ji Bing into the void. Before disappearing, Ji Bing turned her head and looked deeply at Su Fong. Her empty gaze seemed to be able to see into the depths of Su Fong's body and soul. Su Fong knew that Ji Bing was not looking at him. She was looking at her son, Mo Fenghua. Su Fong was silent for a long time. He pulled Xian Lingzi, Uncle Chong, and Ling Xiangmei into his internal world and turned to leave. At this moment, a dark green Xian Guang suddenly appeared from a void. It quickly condensed into a leaf-shaped substance and flew towards Su Fong's forehead. QL11 Su Fong was about to dodge when Emperor Sang Chio's voice sounded in his mind. Do not resist. This Jianmu intends to accept you as its master. It has offered a strand of its soul energy. Merge with it. From now on, you will be the master of this Jianmu. The Jianmu wants to recognize me as its master? Su Fong was surprised. Even if he agreed to Ji Bing's request to let those innocent Ji people go, it would not be enough for the Jianmu to recognize him as its master. The Jianmu was a supreme creation spiritual item that was born at the beginning of heaven and earth. Legend has it that it was connected to heaven and earth. Later on, the war between the human race and the demon race led to the destruction of the Jianmu. The Ji people's Jianmu was cultivated from a branch of the original Jianmu. It was also a unique divine tree. Who would have thought that it would take the initiative to recognize Su Fong as its master? Emperor Sang Chio chuckled. This Jianmu already has its own consciousness. It is very smart. Now that the Ji people have been exterminated, it still does not know whose hands it will fall into. Rather than that, it might as well take the initiative to recognize you as its master. Who asked you to be so kind? Su Fong, even I can't help but be jealous of you for having such a fortuitous encounter. Since the Jianmu has taken the initiative to recognize me as its master, then I won't hold back. Su Fong's eyes instantly became incomparably hale and hearty. After fusing with the Jianmu, he could directly move it into his inner world. In this way, the Jianmu could absorb the power of Su Fong's inner world and continue to grow. Meanwhile, Su Fong could also use the Jianmu to accelerate his transformation. The Jianmu's wood elemental essence, aura, also had an astonishing recovery ability. Moreover, with the Jianmu's inner world, it would become incomparably sturdy. Back then, when Su Fong was at the Dao integration stage, the world tree had almost collapsed. In the end, it was fused with a leaf of the Jianmu that stabilized it. If he could move the entire Jianmu into his inner world, how sturdy would his inner world become? There was another huge benefit. Su Fong had no choice but to place the sky realm into his inner world. However, his inner world had not been fully formed yet. In his inner world, he could only rely on swallowing pills to cultivate. With the Jianmu, all the cultivators in the sky realm could live in the Jianmu. The Jianmu could absorb the aura of Su Fong's inner world and turn it into pure world power and spirit qi. The cultivation environment was definitely not much worse than the Hunyuan Heaven Realm. A leaf of the Jianmu could accommodate hundreds of millions of people. The entire Jianmu could accommodate hundreds of billions of people. He could also bring all his subordinates in the great world into the sky realm and live in the Jianmu. In this way, it was equivalent to solving a big problem for Su Fong. How could he not be happy? Su Fong immediately stopped hesitating and allowed the soul imprint to fuse into his glabella. He seeped the power of his primordial spirit into the soul imprint of the Jianmu. At the same time, he also used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to fuse his fate with the Jianmu. In an instant, Su Fong felt that he had become one with the Jianmu. He did not need to use his perfected ability to sense. He could clearly sense the people living on the leaves of the Jianmu and even the slightest movement in the wind. My visit to the Ji clan this time has really brought me an unexpected surprise. Su Fong chuckled. He was very happy in his heart. Next, it's time to deal with the Ji people. Why are Duanmu Rinjia and the Emperor, venerable expert of the Duanmu divine clan here? Su Fong sensed that in the palace where the Ji people's power was the most concentrated, there were more than 10 experts emitting the aura of the Wood Dao. Su Fong recognized one of the young men. It was Duanmu Rinjia of the Duanmu divine clan. There was another young man whose aura was faint. If he had not fused with the Jianmu, Su Fong would not have been able to sense his existence. He was the Emperor, venerable expert of the Duanmu divine clan. At the peak of the Jianmu, on the leaf, there was a magnificent palace. The Emperor, venerable expert of the Duanmu divine clan, sat high on the throne, while Duanmu, Rinjia, stood beside him. The imperial people expert guarding the Jianmu stood below respectfully. Emperor venerable, may I ask why you have suddenly come to the Ji people? Duanmu Rinjia said, it's a small matter. The Ji people are about to be exterminated. Our Emperor Venerable could not bear to see the divine tree of heaven and earth destroyed, so he specially came to the Ji people to take the Jianmu away. Take the Jianmu away? The imperial people expert frowned. He understood the Duanmu divine clan's intention. The Duanmu divine clan cultivated the Wood Dao, so the Jianmu divine tree was naturally very useful to them. Now that the Ji people were about to be exterminated, how could the Duanmu divine clan let the Jianmu divine tree go? The Jianmu divine tree was not an ordinary spiritual item. Ordinary people would not be able to fuse with the Jianmu divine tree and move it away. It was not strange for the Emperor Venerable of the Duanmu divine clan to come personally. The Jianmu divine tree was too important to the Duanmu divine clan, so it was worth the Emperor Venerable expert to come personally. If the Duanmu divine clan takes the Jianmu divine tree away, I'm afraid it will be difficult to explain to the Emperor Venerable of my clan, the imperial people expert said hesitantly. It was not just the Duanmu divine clan, which force did not covet the Jianmu divine tree. This imperial people expert was no exception. Naturally, he was unwilling to let the Duanmu divine clan obtain the Jianmu divine tree. Therefore, he brought up the Emperor Venerable of the imperial people. I have already spoken to the Emperor Venerable of the imperial people about this matter and obtained his permission. The Emperor Venerable of the Duanmu divine clan said majestically, if that's the case, how can I not comply? Chapter 2349. Duanmu Rinjia suddenly said, my clan lacks some medicine apprentices, especially those who are young and beautiful. We need some virgins to harvest spiritual herbs. Anyway, it would be a pity to kill those Ji people. Why don't you give them to my clan? I hope you could do us a favor. How many women does the Duanmu divine clan need? Not many, just 100,000. The higher the cultivation level, the better. This, the imperial people's expert hesitated. The Duanmu divine clan's so-called medicine apprentices were actually using the vital yin of those virgins to refine an elixir called the Yin Soul Nourishing Elixir. This elixir was very precious in the universe. Although it was not as good as the Creation Saint elixir, it had the effect of nourishing the vital spirit. Therefore, its value was not inferior to the Creation Saint elixir. This elixir was not difficult to refine. The key was that it required virgins' vital yin. The lifespan of those women whose vital yin was extracted would be greatly reduced. Moreover, their appearance would rapidly become extremely ugly. Their fates would be extremely miserable in the future. While they were still hesitating, Duanmu Rinjia took out a storage ring. The Imperial People's expert looked into the storage ring with his consciousness. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He immediately agreed. It's just 100,000 women. Anyway, they will be killed and taken away by the Duanmu divine clan to contribute to the Yuan Tiangong. It was obvious that the benefits offered by the Duanmu divine clan had tempted this Imperial People's expert. As the Imperial People's expert gave the order, 100,000 women were quickly sent to the square outside the main hall. These women were all as beautiful as flowers. Moreover, their cultivation levels were not low. Most of them were in the Heaven God realm. Some of them were from the G people, while others were selected from the G people's vassal forces. They knew that they would not be able to escape death. Most of them were expressionless. Their eyes were dull, and they looked like walking corpses. Duanmu Rinjie took out a treasure cauldron and prepared to suck all the women into the cauldron. A woman suddenly shouted, "I am the junior sister of the same sect as Su Fong. Young master, please spare me for the sake of Su Fong." Duanmu Rinjie was stunned as he looked at the woman. Seeing that the woman was only a heavenly god and was not from the G people, he asked with a smile, "Are you Su Fong's junior sister?" The woman raised her head and said loudly, "That's right. I'm from Kuan Su divine sect." Back then, Su Fong used the alias Mo Fenghua to stay in Kuan Su divine sect. He was my senior martial brother. Moreover, senior martial brother Su Fong and I have an extraordinary relationship. Duanmu Rinjie raised his eyebrows. "Oh, how is it extraordinary?" "Back when Su Fong was in Kuan Su's divine sect, he secretly liked me." "Secretly like you?" Duanmu Rinjie was both shocked and stunned. Swish, swish. Almost everyone's gazes landed on the Kuan Su divine sect woman. Their eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. Duanmu Rinjie smiled and said, "With your beauty, Su Fong actually fell in love with you? His taste is really a little too low." The woman said embarrassedly, "Back when I was in Kuan Su's divine sect, Su Fong secretly stole my undergarments. If that wasn't liking me, then what was?" Once she said this, more than 10 women immediately started shouting. "Back when I was in Kuan Su's divine sect, Su Fong also took my undergarments. In the Star Billow divine realm, my family even planned to marry Su Fong. I almost became Su Fong's Dao companion." It turned out that these 10 women were all from Kuan Su's divine realm and the Star Billow divine realm. In Kuan Su's divine realm, Mo Fenghua, who had a bad habit, even stole Ling Xiangmei's undergarments. There were very few female disciples who did not have their undergarments stolen. In the Star Billow God realm, Xian Lingzi had once taken in 108 Dao companions for Su Fong. However, when Su Fong was hunted down by the Brahma race, the families of these women took advantage of the situation and broke off the engagement one after another. At this moment, these past events had become these women's life-saving straw. Duanmu Rinjie laughed and said, "So Su Fong has so many close female friends. If I don't take special care of all of you, I will really be letting him down." Those women were all overjoyed. Who knew, in the next moment, Duanmu Rinjie's eyes suddenly turned cold. His entire body surged with a strong, baleful aura. "Su Fong caused me to go to the ancient demon abyss to train. I almost lost my life and suffered a lot. Since all of you are his close female friends, how can I not take good care of all of you?" Those women's faces instantly turned pale. Duanmu Rinjie gritted his teeth and said, "I will refine all of you into flower slaves." Do you know what a flower slave is? It is to use your corporeal body as the soil and plant the spiritual flower seeds in your body. Your primordial spirit, flesh, and blood will become the fertilizer and eventually grow into spiritual flowers that possess intelligence. Duanmu Rinjie's words sent chills down everyone's spines. Even that expert from the Imperial people frowned. Those women from the Kuan Su divine sect and the Star Billow divine realm were so scared that they fainted. Duanmu Rinjie activated the treasure cauldron and released a divine might that enveloped all 100,000 women. After keeping all of the women into the treasure cauldron, Duanmu Rinjie was about to keep the cauldron when an extremely tyrannical divine might engulf the treasure cauldron. Then, The treasured cauldron was forcefully sent flying. Su Fong walked out from the void and looked at Duanmu Rinjia with a frosty gaze. It seems like the lesson I gave young Master Duanmu in the past was not deep enough. Su Fong. Duanmu Rinjia looked as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes were filled with surprise and fear. During the marriage ceremony of Di Yuan, he had personally witnessed how powerful Su Fong was and how ruthless he was. The imperial people were able to achieve what they had today, all because of him. How could Duanmu Rinjia not be afraid of Su Fong? The expression of the imperial people's expert also changed greatly. Su Fong said coldly, "Does young Master Duanmu have to take special care of everyone who is related to me?" Duanmu Rinjia stuttered, "Su Fong's saint's son, please don't misunderstand. I only wanted to scare those women. I don't have any other intentions. Since Saint's son, Su Fong, likes those women, I will give them all to you along with the treasure cauldron." The Emperor Venerable Realm expert from the Duanmu divine clan snorted coldly and appeared in front of Duanmu Rinjia. "Su Fong, don't be unreasonable. Rinjia only said a few words, and he has already admitted his mistake. Why are you still harping on him?" Then he looked at the imperial people's expert. "Quickly move all the sinners of the imperial people out of the Jinmu. I don't have time to waste here." "Yes," the imperial people's expert replied. "There's no need. I want the Jinmu and all the Ji people in it," Su Fong said indifferently. He had already merged with the Jinmu. How could he give up the juicy meat that was already in his mouth? Moreover, he had promised Ji Bing that he would let go of the Ji people's ordinary clansmen. When he saw that Duanmu Rinjia wanted to take away 100,000 women from the Ji people, Su Fong realized that the Ji people had become a juicy piece of meat in the eyes of the various forces. Everyone wanted to take a bite out of it, including the Ji people's clansmen. Only the Ji people's higher-ups would be killed in the end. Most of the Ji people would be treated as slaves and divided among the super forces. Instead of benefiting the other forces, he would rather benefit himself. Su Fong naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. When the time came, he would shackle all the Ji people's cultivators and turn them into experts that he could use. No matter how useless they were, they could still be used as cultivation tools for the big goblin. As for the ordinary Ji people, they wouldn't be a threat even if they were kept alive. In the past, Su Fong had a good relationship with the Duanmu Divine clan other than having some disputes with Duanmu Rinjia. He had even made deals with the Duanmu Divine clan before. However, this time, for the sake of the Jinmu, he had no choice but to put the deal aside. The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu Divine clan was enraged. The venerable sovereign's divine aura swept out, causing Su Fong to retreat continuously. Then, he said majestically, the Ji people's first ancestor was taken over by the demon race. The supreme existence of the imperial people judged the Ji people to be exterminated. Moreover, the extermination of the Ji people was also a condition that you proposed that day. Now, you want to protect the Ji people. What's the meaning of this? Su Fong said indifferently. I suddenly changed my mind. What will you do about it? The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu Divine clan snorted and said, I don't care how the Ji people are dealt with. However, I have the permission of the supreme existence of the imperial people to come and take the Jinmu. Do you dare to stop me? So what? Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. Impudent. Su Fong, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. You don't even care about the supreme, venerable sovereign. The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu Divine clan shouted coldly. A terrifying aura instantly shrouded Su Fong and his surroundings. Of course, he did not dare to do anything to Su Fong. He only wanted to intimidate Su Fong so that he could obtain the Jinmu Divine clan's most important Jinmu Divine tree. Who knew? Su Fong suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He shouted loudly, The Duanmu Divine clan wants to kill me. The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu Divine clan frowned. He sensed that something was wrong. Whoosh! 3 figures emerged from the void at the same time. They were Sang Xiao, Wei Dao, and Fan Di, the 3 supreme venerable sovereigns. The 3 of them looked at the venerable sovereign of the Duanmu Divine clan at the same time. A terrifying heavenly Tao avatar surged in their eyes. Numerous illusory figures appeared in the void and instantly transformed into a real world that enveloped the venerable sovereign of the Duanmu divine clan. Boom! Boom! The Imperial People's Expert was affected and was blasted out of the Jinmu divine tree space. The magnificent hall was instantly reduced to ashes under the divine aura of the three supreme venerable sovereigns. This was the result of the three supreme venerable sovereigns deliberately controlling their power. If they had gone all out, even half of the Jinmu divine tree would have been destroyed. The Imperial People's Expert would have died on the spot. The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu divine clan teleported out of the Jinmu divine tree with Duanmu Renjia. He roared furiously, Sang Qiu Wei Dao and Fan Di, "How dare you attack me?" Venerable Sang Qiu said, "Venerable sovereign of the Duanmu divine tree, I'm sorry. If Su Fong is hurt in the slightest, the three of us will not be able to answer to the supreme beings of the imperial people. We will also not be able to answer to the myriad worlds." The venerable sovereign of the Duanmu divine clan was furious. "What did I hurt Su Fong?" Su Fong snorted. "I've already been beaten to the point where I'm vomiting blood. Is that not an injury? This time, the Duanmu divine clan must give me an explanation. Otherwise, the Duanmu divine clan will be severely punished." A Xianguang shot towards Su Fong. Wei Dao caught it. It turned out to be a storage ring. "I'll give you 100,000 creation saint pills." Chapter 2350. Emperor Sang Qiu shook his head and said, "Su Fong, you have offended another venerable emperor. Are you planning to offend all the venerable emperors? He doesn't even care about the supreme existence of the imperial people. Why would he care about us venerable emperors?" Fondi snorted. His body was shrouded in divine light like a majestic mountain. The supreme aura of a venerable emperor was fully displayed. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Su Fong using him to deal with the venerable emperors of the Duanmu divine clan. Su Fong said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "If you respect me, I will respect you 10 times over. If Lord Fondi doesn't treat me like an ant, I will naturally respect you as an venerable emperor. The weak should have the awareness of the weak. You will reap what you sow sooner or later if you try to go against the heavens," Fondi said coldly. Then, he flicked his sleeve, and a divine light swept out as he disappeared into the void. Emperor Sang Qiu and Emperor Only Dao shook their heads and smiled before following him. From now on, the Ji people will be removed from the myriad worlds. The Jinmu of the Ji people will also belong to Su Fong. Su Fong looked at the Jinmu with bright eyes. Then, he released a thought into the Jinmu. The Jinmu shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned from a giant tree that could hold up the heavens to a small sapling a few feet tall in just a few breaths. Collect. The Ji people in the Jinmu, as well as the cultivators of the Ji people's vassal forces, were moved into Su Fong's inner world along with the Jinmu. Sizzle. Sizzle. The Jinmu fell on the ground of Su Fong's inner world. Its roots quickly extended deep into the ground and took root. At the same time, the trunk began to grow rapidly. In less than half an hour, it turned into a giant tree that was 1,000,000 miles tall, like a heavenly pillar that supported the heavens and the earth. In an instant, Su Fong felt that the inner world and his inner world had become several times more stable than before, as if there was an additional pillar that supported the heavens and the earth. Su Fong used the divine power of a Jinmu to transmit his majestic voice to the ears of everyone on the Jinmu's leaves, the Ji people, and all the forces that rely on the Ji people. From today onwards, Su Fong is your master. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Su Fong continued indifferently. Originally, you were all destined to die. I, Su Fong, gave you a chance to live, but from now on you'll be my slaves. Whoosh! Countless deities flew out of the buildings on the tree leaves and looked at Su Fong, who was like a supreme ruler in the sky. These people, regardless of whether they were from the G clan or the cultivators from the other factions that had once relied on the G clan, originally thought that they would not be able to escape death. Who would want to live live? However, becoming Su Fong slaves was not something these people were willing to accept. Su Fong, you framed the G people's first ancestor, killed the G people's second ancestor, third ancestor, and countless clansmen. Now, you still want to continue enslaving the G people. I'll fight you to the death. An old man, who Su Fong could tell from his aura that he was a Dao integration final stage area lord, and he was clearly one of the higher-ups of the G clan. He let out an enraged roar and charged towards Su Fong. Boom! With a thought, Su Fong released a burst of divine power from the Jianmu's inner world, which fiercely pressed down on the old man. Under the divine power of the Jianmu, this realm lord expert was as weak as an ant and was instantly crushed into powder. The G people would rather die than become Su Fong's slaves. Another dozen or so experts of the G people, who were all high-ranking members of the G people, roared furiously and charged towards Su Fong with a solemn and stirring aura. Since you want to die, how can the Su Fong not fulfill your wish? However, I can't let you die in vain. You should at least be of some use. Su Fong's eyes were filled with coldness. He activated the divine power of the Jianmu and shackled the dozen or so experts of the G people. Zhu Huang, Tongtian Demon Venerable, Tongtian Demon Venerable, Undying Tortoise. I'll leave him to you. With a thought, Su Fong summoned Zhu Huang and the other big goblin who had followed Su Fong the longest. They immediately appeared in the Jianmu. Thank you, Master. There are so many human cultivators, and they're all Dao integration realm experts. After swallowing them, we'll be able to catch up to Qingyu very quickly. Zhu Huang and the other big goblin were extremely excited. They laughed maniacally, and each of them grabbed 2 or 3 experts of the G people. In front of the many cultivators of the G people and their vassal forces, they started swallowing them wantonly. In an instant, the builder tree fell silent. Isn't it easy to die? I have countless big goblin subordinates. No matter how many G people there are, they'll all be swallowed up by them. Su Fong's voice was filled with killing intent. Along with the divine power of the Jianmu, it attacked everyone's Dao heart and will. Then, Su Fong's expression softened. He said majestically, "From now on, the G people will no longer exist in this world. All G people will change their surname to Li." Surname Li? Everyone was astonished. However, after thinking about it carefully, they understood what Su Fong meant. The G people's surname was G. If they cut off their heads, wouldn't they become Li? I've always been fair in my rewards and punishments. As long as you're able to work for me and make contributions, I'll naturally not be stingy with my rewards. However, if there's anyone who refuses to give up and tries to defy my will, I'll definitely not be merciful. After saying that, Su Fong moved all the former G people and the currently clan members to the first level of the Jianmu. The Jianmu leaves were divided into 9 levels. The first level was the lowest level. In the past, it was the place where the ordinary members of the G people lived. Now, regardless of their status, they were all slaves on the first level. Then, Su Fong moved all the forces that used to rely on the G people to the second level. Everyone from the Blue Dome Star Field, including the people from the Star Billow Divine World and Kuin Su's Divine Sect, were all placed on the third level. Experts from the Blue Dome Star Field, including the Blue Dome Star Field's Domain Lord, were also placed here. Based on their previous relationship with Su Fong, they could have become the upper echelons of the Jianmu and enjoy different treatment. However, they were now reduced to slaves. This was also Su Fong's punishment for them for going with the flow and joining the G people. Next, Su Fong moved all the Shu clan members who lived in the Golden Rainbow King's world and the subordinates that he had subdued from the other worlds. They were all placed between the 4th and 7th level. The cultivators from the Heaven Realm who were loyal to Su Fong, as well as the subordinates from the Great World and the Big Goblin, were all placed on the 8th level of the palace. Su Yao Tian, Xian Yin Tian, Xian Lingzi, Shu Yunkong, and the other elders, as well as the family Su members and Su Fong's best friends, were naturally placed on the top level with the best cultivation environment. It was not just the living environment. At the same time, they were all powerful figures in the Jianmu. Everyone on the Jianmu was under their control. In fact, Su Fang did not have to worry about those newly subdued subordinates, mainly the Ji people, causing any trouble. Not only had Su Fang integrated with the Jianmu, but the Jianmu was also in his internal world. Even if these people defied the heavens, they could not break Su Fang's world. In this place, Su Fang was their sky. Next, Xian Yintian, Shu Yunkong, Xian Lingzi, and the others began to formulate laws and integrate their subordinates. They wanted to integrate Su Fang's forces into a strict force as soon as possible. Only then could they become a part of the overall strength of Su Fang. After a preliminary count, Su Fangda was shocked. He did not expect that his overall strength would suddenly soar to a level that even he could not imagine. At this time, the number of cultivators in the Jianmu had reached 30 million. In addition, there were more than 100 million ordinary people. Most of them were the Ji people. These ordinary people were not useless. They were the ones who formed the lowest level of society in the entire Jianmu world. Among the cultivators, there were nearly 4,000 Dao integration realm cultivators. Most of them were experts that Su Fang had subdued in the prison suppressing codex. There were also people from the Ji people and the Ji people's vassal forces. These people would be Su Fang's most elite subordinates. Most of the other cultivators were at the True God Realm and Heavenly God Realm. There were also quite a number of Divine Emperor Realm and Godly Venerable Realm cultivators. In addition, Su Fang still had a clone of Mystery in his hands. It was equivalent to having a Supreme Venerable as his subordinate. However, Mystery's clone could still be used twice more unless they found the 9 nether embryonic stone that Mystery mentioned. However, Su Fang had the prison suppressing codex and could constantly suppress experts. At this time, a clone of the Ji people's ancestor was shackled within the prison suppressing codex. Its cultivation was equivalent to a peak Lord-level expert. Such a powerful force was definitely a super force comparable to those ancient god clans in the myriad worlds. It could at least be ranked in the top 100. However, it wasn't easy to feed so many subordinates. QL11, it was obviously unrealistic to rely on Su Fang alone. Su Fang would not support idle people. The strict laws set by Shu Yunkong and the others were not only rules to restrict their subordinates, but also a system to reward and punish them. Everyone's contributions were different, so they would receive different identities and statuses. At this time, the Jianmu world was an independent divine realm. It would take a long time to integrate such a large force. Su Fang left a clone to oversee the Jianmu world. The specific matters were all handed over to the elders and loyal subordinates. Su Fang did not like power. Xian Yintian, Shu Yunkong, Xian Lingzi, and the others had experience in managing dojos, sects, and forces. Su Fang was relieved to leave all the major matters to them. They never dreamed that they would have the opportunity to manage such a large force and command so many experts. Although they were very busy, they were never tired of it. Next, it's time to go to the W Hall and get the resources that belong to me. After settling all his subordinates, Su Fang activated the Son of Saints token and entered the W Hall. The supreme existence of the imperial people had personally promised that Su Fang could get whatever he wanted. With such a good opportunity, how could Su Fang miss it? The W Hall gathered the best treasures and resources of the Yuan Tiangong. Su Fang had long coveted them. Unfortunately, he did not have enough merit points. How could he not plunder them? Chapter 2351. Su Fang appeared in W Hall. Swish! Swish! This immediately attracted countless gazes. At this time, in Yuan Tiangong, it was possible to not know of a certain venerable emperor, but there was no one who did not know of Su Fang. Even the supreme martial artist of Yuan Tiangong, the countless existences of the imperial people, was slapped in the face by Su Fang. The Ji people's first ancestor, a venerable emperor, died because of him. The Ji people were also destroyed because of him. Although no one knew what method Su Fong had to enter the exalted celestial mountain, the only hope of the entire universe rested on him. Who would dare to show the slightest disrespect to such a figure? However, everyone kept a respectful distance from him. No one dared to approach him. They felt that he was like a god of plague. Not only had the Su Fong offended countless powers, he had even offended the imperial people and the supreme existence of the imperial people. Even a fool knew that after 100,000 years, regardless of whether he succeeded or failed in entering the celestial worthy mountain, he would not be able to escape the fate of being suppressed by the imperial people. At this time, if he had any relationship with the Su Fong, it would be tantamount to asking for trouble, so everyone kept a respectful distance from him. Su Fong, you also came to the Alpha Hall to exchange for treasures? A young man walked towards Su Fong. It was Sun Qi. Sun Qi and Shu Jiayue had already become Dao companions, which meant that they were also half of the Shu clan. At this moment, they were still cultivating in the mysterious realm. Exchange for treasures? That's not it. Su Fong chuckled. Sun Qi, come with me to get the treasure. Do you dare? If there are treasures to be taken, what's there to be afraid of? Sun Qi's gaze suddenly became incomparably spirited. He arrived at the array space where he could exchange all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. The two of you, what treasures do you need to exchange for? Allow me to guide you. Su Fong's holy son, a beautiful woman, came to greet them. At first, her attitude was very cold, but after recognizing Su Fong, her beautiful face suddenly turned pale, and she couldn't even speak clearly. He hurriedly led Su Fong to a room created by formations and divine abilities. Su Fong nodded and said, "Bring me the list of all the treasures and let me take a look." Yes. The woman quickly left. After a while, a middle-aged man entered the room. He was the person in charge of this place. Holy Son Su Fong, this is a list of all the heavenly materials and earthly treasures you need. Please take your time to choose. The middle-aged man respectfully handed over a dozen jade slips to Su Fong. There were truly too many treasures in Dubby Hall. Just a list of the various treasures filled over a dozen jade slips. Su Fong said casually, "There's no need to choose. Bring me all the treasures according to the list." The middle-aged man was dumbstruck. Then he stammered, "Holy Son, with so many treasures, the amount of merit points required to exchange them. I'm afraid. He wanted to say that he couldn't afford Su Fong, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. Sun Qi was also shocked and stunned. He did not understand what Su Fong was trying to do. No one could exchange for all the heavenly materials and earthly treasures at once. Even an Emperor Realm Master could not possibly have so many merit points. Did I say I wanted to exchange for all the treasures? Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. The unsurpassed Emperor clan existence personally promised that as long as the Saint Sun takes a fancy to any treasure in Primordius Heavenly Palace, I can freely take it. Of all the treasures on this list, I have taken a fancy to them all. The middle-aged man was a late-stage Dao integration cultivator. He couldn't even speak now. What? You dare to disobey the supreme existence of the imperial people? Su Fong said majestically. A domineering aura that surpassed that of a Dao integration cultivator spread out. It's just that the supreme existence of the imperial people only allowed you to take those treasures that are useful for your cultivation. He did not say that you can take all the treasures in one go. How do you know which treasures I can use and which I can't? Moreover, even if I can't use them, can't my subordinates use them? But Saint Su Fong's subordinates are not you. I'm about to enter the Heavenly Venerate Mountain, so my subordinates will naturally be brought in. They're a part of my strength. In the future, they will contribute to the Heavenly Venerate Mountain. Improving their strength is to fight for more hope for the Heavenly Venerate world. If you refuse, can you bear the responsibility if something goes wrong in the Heavenly Venerate Mountain in the future? A layer of sweat appeared on the middle-aged man's forehead. He felt the pressure of the entire world enveloping his body. But, how could the subordinates of the Holy Sun use so many treasures? I have more than 100 million subordinates. No matter how many treasures there are, they can still be used. So many. Saint, please wait a moment. Let me ask the higher-ups for instructions. The middle-aged man trembled as he spoke. Then, he left the room. In less than 5 minutes, the middle-aged man returned. His face had turned pale, and his whole body was trembling. Then, a divine light swept out from his right hand, enveloping a large number of storage rings. There were more than 10,000 of them. Under Sun Qi's almost dazed gaze, Su Fong waved his hand and kept all the storage rings into his body. Then, he split a portion of his essence spirit consciousness and entered the storage rings. An adult primordial earth flame. There's even a heaven-grade divine core. 9 lives intermittent grass. The spirit items and materials made Su Fong's eyes shine brightly. These spirit items and materials were all treasures that Su Fong used to covet like a flock of ducks. Unfortunately, he was embarrassingly short of money, and any one of them was out of his reach. Now, they were actually all his, just like the goods from roadside stalls. How could he not be surprised and happy? However, with Su Fong's current cultivation level, the treasures that used to be fatal to him were not very useful to him now. Most of them were useless to him. Resources that were attractive to some powerful sovereigns and supreme sovereigns rarely appeared in Dubby Hall. Those spirit items were all creation grade and extremely rare. It was impossible for them to be taken out for Yuan Tiangong geniuses to cultivate. Even sovereigns would trade for treasures of this grade in private. They were not very useful to Su Fong, but they were very useful to his subordinates. With so many treasures, Su Fong's overall strength could quickly rise by a large step. Unfortunately, there's no 9 nether embryo stone. Su Fong searched all the storage rings, but he did not find the 9 nether embryo stone. He was somewhat disappointed. The 9 nether embryo stone was a gemstone condensed from the essence of heaven and earth. It was necessary for Yu's clone. Su Fong had never heard of it before. He had hoped to find it in Dubby Hall, but it seemed that he had been too impatient. The treasures needed by sovereigns could not be found here. However, Su Fong found all kinds of spirit items that could help the Golden Rainbow King reconstruct his physical body among these treasures. The Golden Rainbow King was pleasantly surprised. Many thanks. Su Fong led Sun Qi, whose face was filled with shock, away in embarrassment. The middle-aged man was like a wooden puppet. He stood in a daze in the room for a long time before finally muttering to himself. Could this holy son Su Fong be the reincarnation of the locust big goblin? Su Fong picked out some useful treasures for Sun Qi's cultivation from the looted treasures and gave them to him. Sun Qi, who had unexpectedly obtained these treasures, was extremely excited. He left Dubby Hall with a face full of surprise. After that, Su Fong went through every hall in Dubby Hall. Everywhere he went, it was like a locust swarm had passed through. All kinds of pills, magic treasures, resources, and even cultivation methods and divine ability manuals were plundered clean. Even the Golden Rainbow King, a bandit who had once roamed the heavens, was full of admiration for Su Fong. Su Fong, you're simply too ruthless. You're even more ruthless than I was back then. I can't help but admire you from the bottom of my heart. As the calamity worsens, the resources of the heavens will become increasingly scarce. If I don't take advantage of this opportunity to make a fortune, how can I rapidly increase my overall strength? After I enter Celestial Worthy Mountain, if I fail, the supreme existence of the imperial people will definitely not let me off. If I succeed, he will not let me off either. Only by increasing my strength as quickly as possible can I have the capital to survive. How can I not be a little crazy? It's not just the treasures in Dubby Hall. Apart from the sovereigns, I won't let go of the treasures and resources in the hands of the other overgods as long as they are useful to me. Especially the purple aura Dharma spirit. In the past, I didn't dare to touch heavenly fire divine lord. This time, I will plunder the purple aura Dharma spirit from him. When that happens, the purple aura Dharma spirit will undergo another shocking transformation. Su Fong's goal was very simple. He wanted to plunder as much as he could and rapidly increase his strength. Principles and rules were all meaningless. Only strength was the way of the king. After plundering Dubby Hall, Su Fong was still unwilling to give up. He headed straight for the depths of Dubby Hall. Su Fong still had 2 targets left, the Artifact Hall and the Pill Pagoda. The Artifact Hall and the Pill Pagoda had gathered the best artifact refiners and alchemists in the heavens. They naturally did not lack various pills and magic treasures. How could Su Fong miss out on this opportunity? Furthermore, Su Fong was determined to obtain the primordial purple gas in the Artifact Hall. With the divine power of the Saint's token, Su Fong flew past layers of unfathomable enchantments. Finally, he entered the depths of an ocean-like enchantment. Suddenly, he was just 1 step away. In front of him was an extremely clear giant mountain. The Artifact Hall was not a palace. Instead, it was an extremely lofty and majestic mountain. On the mountain, there was a training ground that was specially used for refining weapons. Su Fong's figure flashed, and he arrived at the peak of the mountain. "Su Huang, welcome to my Artifact Hall." A divine radiance tore through the air and quickly condensed into Mo Tiangong's figure. After the selection of the Artifact Hall, Heavenly Fire Divine Lord was too ashamed to preside over the Artifact Hall. Hence, Mo Tiangong took advantage of the situation and became the Hall Master of the Artifact Hall. Su Fong cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Senior." Mo Tiangong chuckled and teased, "Greetings, Su Huang. I dare not accept your greetings." Su Huang. Su Fong was surprised. "QL 11-inch, it's the Huang from the Locust Clan." Mo Tiangong laughed loudly. "You still don't know, right? You've been plundering without restraint. Now, the news has already spread throughout Yuan Tiangong. You've been given a title, Su Huang." "Ha ha ha, Su Huang." Su Fong was speechless and smiled bitterly. This was not a good reputation. Then Mo Tiangong changed to an essence spirit transmission. "Su Fong, you can take whatever magic treasures you want in the Artifact Hall. However, I have a request." Chapter 2352. Mo Tiangong nodded with satisfaction. "It's not too difficult. Some of my disciples want to learn the great way of refining from you. I hope you can teach them." Su Fong touched the tip of his nose and asked curiously, "Senior, you're the top master of refining in all the worlds. Why do you want your disciples to learn the great way of refining from me?" "The great way of refining is the same as a cultivator's cultivation. I got Grandmaster Tianbao's great way of refining from you, as well as his experience in refining. I've been comprehending and verifying it over the years, and I've learned a lot. However, since I embarked on the path of cultivation, the cultivation methods and great ways I practiced are different from Grandmaster Tianbao's great way of refining. Therefore, it's difficult for me to reach the peak of his great way of refining. But you're different. Not only have you comprehended it, but you've also integrated the great way of refining into your cultivation. You've already grasped the essence of the great way of refining. Even I'm not as good as you." After hearing Mo Tiangong's explanation, Su Fong finally understood. "I happen to be short of a master of refining. With your disciples, I can also teach my disciples. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone." Su Fong nodded and agreed. Mo Tiangong immediately sent a message to the giant mountain where the Artifact Hall was. A moment later, more than 100 Master of Refining flew over the sky from the top of the mountain. QL11 Su Fong performed the power of the Great Completeness and scanned the Master of Refining. He was pleasantly surprised to find that these Master of Refining not only had high cultivation, but also had rich primordial purple chi. Some of the old men even had the aura of divine artifacts of creation. From this, it could be concluded that Mo Tiangong's disciples and grand disciples' artifact refining skills were absolutely not low. Although they were not as good as Mo Tiangong, they could still be regarded as first-class artifact refining grandmasters in the universe. 3. Su Fong was not surprised that Grandmaster Tianbao was among them. He took all the master of refining into the Builderwood. He did not expect that Mo Tiangong would also send a young spirit into the Builderwood with his disciples to cultivate the great way of refining with them. Su Fong asked Xianlingzi to create an artifact refining hall to settle these artifact refining masters. Su Fong peeled off a strand of Yang spirit and imparted the great Tao of refining to them. At the same time, he also selected cultivators with talent to learn how to refine magic treasures from these artifact refiners. In this way, Su Fong's treasure refining Tao temple was established. There should be quite a lot of great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall. The artifact hall gathered the best artifact forging masters and geniuses from all over the universe. What they forged were all-powerful magic treasures. The great pregnant purple qi that was produced when the magic treasures were born would definitely be abundant after so many years. Su Fong activated his purple cloud Dharma spirit and combined it with his perfection stage ability, enveloping the entire artifact hall with his sensing power. Who knew, in the end, Su Fongdao was disappointed. He could only sense a very weak aura of great pregnancy from the various training halls, which was far below Su Fong's expectations. Su Fongdao was puzzled. "What's going on?" Mo Tiangong said. "Are you planning to absorb the great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall?" The Heavenly Fire Divine Lord would come to the artifact hall every once in a while. "I guess he's here for the great pregnant purple qi. Naturally, it won't be your turn." "I see." Su Fong was enlightened. He thought to himself, "It won't be long before I take his purple cloud Dharma spirit from the Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. The great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall is equivalent to him helping me collect it." With this thought, Su Fong had nothing to be depressed about. Next, Su Fong entered the training halls and plundered all the magic treasures, materials in the training halls. He didn't even let go of the artifact cauldron. Once again, he lived up to his name of Su Huang and left with a full load. Passing through the huge formation, he arrived at the Inquin cavern abode where the Pill Pagoda was. "Saint Su Fong, you're really here?" An alchemist from the Duanmu divine clan came out from the boundary of the Pill Pagoda. His name was Duanmu Senator. When Su Fong traded with the Duanmu divine clan in the past, he had interacted with this person. Hence, he was no stranger to this person. Duanmu's son was also quite impressive. He was a big shot in the Pill Pagoda. He was an alchemist master who could refine the divine pill of creation. He was second only to the elder from the Duanmu divine clan who guarded the Pill Pagoda. As Su Fong had taken away the builder tree, the Duanmu divine clan naturally hated him. Duanmu's son seemed to be smiling, but there was a hidden fierceness in his deep eyes. "Since Master Duanmu knows why I'm here, that's great. Please give me the elixirs in the Pill Pagoda. I'll leave immediately after I get them," Su Fong said as he cupped his fists. "I've already prepared them for you, Saint Su Fong." A mocking look flashed in Duanmu Sen's deep eyes. He waved his hand, and a Xianguang appeared. A storage ring flew towards Su Fong. He grabbed the storage ring and sent his primordial spirit into it. Su Fong saw that there were only 1,000 creation saint pills and 1,000,000 pills in the storage ring. They were all middle-grade divine essence pills. Su Fong raised his brows. "Master Duanmu, you must be joking with me. Just 1,000 divine essence pills of creation and 1,000,000 middle-grade divine essence pills are enough to send me away?" Duanmu's son looked troubled. "Saint, you might not know this, but the Yuan Tiangong recently took away almost all of the Pill Pagoda's stockpile in order to clear out the resurrected powerful cultivators in the Han Yuan Heaven World's periphery. The Pill Pagoda barely squeezed out these elixirs for you. Is that so?" Su Fong smiled coldly. "Fine. Since you don't have any elixirs, I won't make things difficult for the Pill Pagoda. Take out some of the Pill Pagoda's alchemy materials." Duanmu's son said with a fake smile, "I'm sorry, but there aren't many alchemy materials left in the Pill Pagoda. I really can't squeeze them out. If you don't believe me, you can check the Pill Pagoda storeroom. Then I'll have to make a trip there personally." Su Fong snorted. "Saint, please." Duanmu's son led the way in front. The two of them passed through the barrier, and a tall pagoda with more than 10 floors appeared before them. After entering the Pill Pagoda, they arrived at the secret storeroom used to store alchemy materials. Indeed, as Duanmu's son had said, Apart from some worthless materials used to refine ordinary pills, there were no other valuable materials in the secret storeroom. Next, apart from the Pill Pagoda's top-level alchemy area, Su Fong went to every other alchemy cave abode in the Pill Pagoda. All he saw were cold cauldrons for alchemy. Where were the elixirs and materials? The Pill Pagoda's alchemists were either meditating or chatting beside their cauldrons. They all looked very relaxed. Upon seeing Su Fong's gloomy expression, Duan Musen's eyes were filled with disdain and mockery. Looks like the Pill Pagoda really doesn't have any elixirs or alchemy materials. I'll take my leave then. Su Fong flicked his sleeves and left. Upon sensing Su Fong flying out of the Pill Pagoda, many Pill Pagoda's alchemists gathered around Duanmu's senator Duanmu's son, sneered disdainfully. What are you being so arrogant for? The Pill Pagoda is not a place where you can act wantonly. I won't give you a single elixir. What can you do? An alchemy master said worriedly that Su Fong is currently being arrogant and despotic in the Yuan Tiangong. He doesn't even care about the supreme imperial venerables. Master, you made him suffer this time. I'm afraid he won't let this matter rest. If he won't let this matter rest, how can the Duanmu divine clan let him off so easily? Duanmu's son said coldly. Let it be arrogant for a while. After 100,000 years, not only the supreme imperial people, but also the Sanskrit, the Luo clan, the Yi clan, and even the Duanmu divine clan won't let him off. At that time, he will have to obediently spit out everything that he has taken. He won't even be able to keep his life. Duanmu Sin's domineering voice had just sounded. Su Fong's cold voice suddenly sounded. Is that so? Immediately after, a divine light flashed from the interior of the Pill Pagoda and instantly condensed into Su Fong's figure. Duanmu's son and the other alchemy masters of the Pill Pagoda were all stunned. They originally thought that Su Fong was just a Dao integration stage immortal. Moreover, the interior of the Pill Pagoda was blocked by a vast barrier. Thus, it was impossible for him to hear the voices inside. That was why they dared to talk about Su Fong so brazenly. They didn't expect Su Fong's sensing ability to be so amazing that he could hear their conversation clearly. Duanmu's son quickly returned to normal. It was just a casual discussion. What else could Su Fong do? Duanmu's son said embarrassedly. Why did the Holy Sun come back? Su Fong's sharp gaze focused on Duanmu Sr. You just said that after I enter the heavenly Venerate Mountain, the supreme imperial people, Sanskrit, the Yi clan, the Luo clan, and your Duanmu divine clan will kill me. Everyone knew that Su Fong had fallen out with the imperial people and offended the supreme imperial people. The Sanskrit, the Luo clan, and the Yi clan all had deep enmity with Su Fong. After 100,000 years, regardless of whether Su Fong succeeded or failed in entering the heavenly Venerate Mountain, he would be mercilessly suppressed by these powerful forces. However, knowing was one thing, saying it out loud was another. Only then did Duanmu's son realize that the matter was a little serious. His expression stiffened, and he forced a smile. I was just saying it casually? Su Fong revealed a look of grief and indignation. For the sake of the myriad worlds, I'm going to risk my life and enter the heavenly Venerate Mountain. The imperial people, the Sanskrit, the Luo clan, the Yi clan, and your Duanmu divine clan actually want to kill me after this. Duanmu Sin's expression changed drastically. He said in a trembling voice, Holy Son, please don't take it seriously. I have a cheap mouth and slandered you. I didn't expect that I, Su Fong, would have to suffer such merciless treatment after this. Anyway, I will die sooner or later. I won't go to the heavenly Venerate Mountain. Su Fong became more and more miserable as he spoke. His face was bleak as he turned to leave. Duanmu's son was completely flustered. Holy Son, please wait. I just misspoke. I'm willing to admit my mistake and apologize. Just admit your mistake and apologize. Su Fong's expression changed. His eyes suddenly became sharp and cold. After hearing your words, my Dao heart has been shaken. It will be difficult for me to make any progress in the next 100,000 years. Even if I enter the heavenly Venerate Mountain, I will return empty-handed. Just admit my mistake and apologize? Duanmu's son knew that Su Fong wanted to take the opportunity to extort him. He immediately relaxed. At most, he would just have to compensate Su Fong with some benefits. Holy Son, what do you want? An elder came through the array formation. It was the alchemy master from the Duanmu divine clan overseeing the Pill Tower. Seeing the elder appear, Duanmu's son and the other alchemists instantly became very confident. Where is the Brahma the Arch? Chapter 23:53. Sanskrit's D-Zune emerged from the void. What do you want now? Brahma D was also extremely depressed. As a D-Zune expert, he was being ordered around by Su Fong like a hired thug. How could he not be depressed? Su Fong pointed at Duanmu's son and said, "This person just said that Sanskrit will kill me after I return from the celestial worthy mountain. So I invited Brahma D here to verify it. Junior of the Duanmu divine clan, how dare you slander Sanskrit?" Brahma D shouted angrily. The anger of a D-Zune was like the anger of the heavenly Tao. How terrifying was that? Duanmu's son felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. He was sent flying and slammed into a huge cauldron. The cauldron shook and let out a loud rumble. A hole was formed in the cauldron that had been tempered thousands of times. Duanmu's son's divine body was smashed, and he spat out blood. Brahma D had shown mercy and did not even use 1% of his strength. Otherwise, Duanmu's son would have been turned into ashes in an instant. Lord Brahma D, please calm down. I know my mistake. Duanmu's son's body was badly mutilated. He did not even dare to swallow the elixirs and struggled to kneel before Brahma D. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was also trembling in fear. He did not dare to say a word. He glared at Duanmu's son and cursed in his heart. This fool doesn't know what's good for him. Everyone knows that Sanskrit will not let Su Fong go, but no one dares to say it. Yet, you idiot said it in front of everyone. How can Brahma D not be angry? Brahma D snorted and looked at Su Fong. What do you think we should do? Su Fong's divine light swept over everyone. How dare you talk nonsense about the supreme beings of the imperial people, the D-Zune experts, and the powerful divine clans? What's worse is that you have shaken my Tao heart. You deserve to die. Lord Brahma D, kill all of them. Kill all of them. Brahma D raised his eyebrows. He was shocked by Su Fong's ruthlessness. Duanmu's son and the other alchemists turned pale with fright and looked at the Duanmu divine clan's old man for help. These alchemists are all first-rate alchemists of Primordius Heavenly Palace. They only spoke a few words behind the saint's son's back and said a few wrong words, and yet the saint's son wants their lives. This is too excessive. The Duanmu divine clan old man grimly said, "Just a few wrong words? This saint came to the Pill Tower this time and was played like a monkey by these alchemists. How can this saint let them off so easily?" Su Fong was unforgiving and revealed his intentions. So the saint's son is here for the pills and ingredients of the Pill Tower. I'll just give them all to you. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan took out a dozen storage rings and tossed them towards Su Fong. So many medicinal pills. Seeing the pills in the storage ring, Su Fong was shocked. He was truly worthy of being called a first-rate alchemy grandmaster of the myriad worlds. Within his storage ring, there were over 1 million good fortune saint pills, as well as over 1 million other rare pills. There were even more king-grade pills that surpassed top grade. There were also countless alchemy ingredients in the storage ring. Even the powerful divine clans in the ancient divine world could not take out so many alchemy ingredients in such a short time. However, when he thought about how there were so many experts in the builder tree in his inner world, he knew that he wouldn't have another chance like this in the future. In any case, he already had a bad reputation as Su Huang, so he might as well act domineeringly once more. With that thought in mind, Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. I'm related to the safety of the myriad worlds. Now that my Tao heart has been shaken, it has already affected my future cultivation. How can mere pills and materials appease the anger in my heart? At this moment, Su Fong looked like an insatiable, hungry wolf. Brahma D frowned. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was even more furious. Su Fong, what do you want? Su Fong pointed at the alchemists. As punishment, these people will refine pills for me for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, I will restore their freedom." The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was furious. "Su Fong, don't go too far. You're just a petty person," Brahma D said. "It's just refining pills for them for 10,000 years. It's not like I want their lives. Why are you making excuses?" He was also annoyed by Su Fong and wanted to get rid of Su Fong as soon as possible. With that, Brahma D reached out and grabbed. A ray of divine light enveloped all the alchemists except the old man from the Duanmu divine clan and forcefully sent them into Su Fong's inner world. "Thank you, Brahma D." Su Fongdao was overjoyed and thanked Brahma D with cupped fists. "Oof," Brahma D snorted. With a flash of divine light, he disappeared from the Pill Pagoda. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan could only watch as so many alchemists from the Pill Pagoda fell into Su Fong's hands. "Sorry for disturbing you, Senior Duanmu." Su Fong cupped his fists at the old man from the Duanmu divine clan and smiled embarrassedly. "I haven't been to the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. Senior Duanmu, please lead the way for me." The old man from the Duanmu divine clan gritted his teeth. "Su Fong, you won't even let go of my cave abode. I'm impressed. Please." Su Fong did not stand on ceremony. He followed the old man from the Duanmu divine clan through the vast barrier and entered the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. On the top floor of the Pill Pagoda, each room had its own unique space. Each room was a refinery training ground with a master alchemist overseeing it. For the sake of not letting down the name of Su Huang, Su Fong took all the medicinal pills, medicinal materials, and even the treasured cauldrons of those alchemy grandmasters everywhere he went, causing those alchemy grandmasters to be angered to the point of spitting blood. Finally, Su Fong arrived at the training ground of the old man from the Duanmu divine clan. After entering a cave abode, Su Fong immediately saw a black cauldron. Mysterious heavenly marks were engraved on the cauldron, forming a picture of the sun, moon, and stars. It exuded a vast and ancient aura. It was a creation divine artifact. A strange fragrance kept coming out of the cauldron. The fragrance rose in spirals, transforming into all kinds of strange, heavenly Tao fragrances. A supreme aura of the great Tao permeated the entire cave abode. "What kind of elixir is being refined in the cauldron?" Su Fong was shocked and asked the old man from the Duanmu divine clan. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan said coldly, "Mountain melting elixir." Su Fong was stunned. "Mountain melting elixir? What a strange name." The mountain in the mountain melting elixir is not an ordinary mountain. It's the exalted celestial mountain. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat and his eyes burned with desire. No matter what the elixir was used for, it was definitely not an ordinary elixir, since it was related to the exalted celestial mountain. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan said proudly, "I spent 100,000 years refining this pill, using countless creation spiritual items, a wisp of the exalted celestial mountain's aura, and countless amounts of the Di Yuan Holy Sun's blood essence. It was tailor-made for him." "A elixir refined for the Di Yuan Holy Sun?" Su Fong was stunned. "That's right. After consuming this elixir, the Di Yuan Holy Sun will have the supreme ability to communicate with the exalted celestial mountain. He will be able to display the heavenly Tao's might, and his strength will increase tremendously. No one in the universe will be able to compete with him. There's actually such a heaven-defying elixir." Su Fong's gaze that looked at the medicinal cauldron became a little more scorching once again. His eyes filled with greed. How could he not be tempted by such a heaven-defying mountain fusion elixir? Even those venerable sovereigns will be tempted by such a heaven-defying elixir. However, this elixir was only useful to the Di Yuan Holy Sun. It wouldn't be of much use to venerable sovereigns. To Su Fong, however, there were no restrictions. He possessed the devouring ability of the blue sky underworld. His primal chaos divine lattice contained all kinds of great Taos. Moreover, he had the world in his body. Naturally, there wouldn't be any restrictions. Moreover, this elixir belonged to the Di Yuan Holy Sun. After the Di Yuan Holy Sun failed at the exalted celestial mountain, he became deranged. He forced Xuanxin to marry him and humiliated Su Fong's family and friends. If it weren't for the fact that the imperial people were supreme existences, Su Fong would have killed 10 Di Yuan holy sons. Moreover, the Di Yuan holy son even challenged Su Fong to a battle of life and death 100 years later. Su Fong wouldn't let go of such a heaven-defying elixir that could help the Di Yuan holy son improve. This cauldron is pretty good. Su Fong sized up the cauldron with a greedy look. The Duanmu divine clan elder's expression changed. This cauldron is my precious cauldron for refining elixirs, not only for my race, but also for the entire universe. If you dare to snatch my treasure, I will stop you even if I have to risk my life. Su Fong said helplessly. In that case, I don't want this cauldron anymore. However, that mountain harmony pill belongs to me. The Duanmu divine clan elder scoffed. That's the Holy Sun's elixir. You want it too? Senior Duanmu, you're trying to provoke me. You brought me here so that I can snatch Di Yuan's mountain harmony pill and use it to sow discord between Di Yuan and me, right? Su Fong saw through Duanmu divine clan elder's intentions and immediately exposed him. Then he said domineeringly, I don't need you to sow discord. I will still step on Di Yuan's head. His mountain harmony pill is mine. The Holy Sun is indeed a smart person. Then I will fulfill your wish. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan snorted and performed a hand seal. Buzz! A faint golden light shot up from the cauldron into the sky. Immediately after, a ball of golden light shot out of the cauldron and flew out of the cave abode. The Duanmu divine clan elder had already expected this. He formed a hand seal and shackled the golden Xiangguang. The golden light flickered rapidly and finally turned into a golden elixir the size of a walnut. It was densely covered with mysterious heavenly marks that intertwined to form the image of a mountain peak. It was the heavenly venerable mountain. Su Fong used his divine power to sweep the elixir into his hand. He then sealed it layer by layer and finally stored it deep within his body. Senior Duanmu, you can tell Di Yuan directly that I have taken his mountain harmony pill. Also, tell him that I will repay him tenfold what he owes me, Su Fong. I will take everything that belongs to him and leave him with only his life. I will let him have a taste of being humiliated. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile and cupped his fists at the Duanmu divine clan elder before leaving. Chapter 2354. Su Fong left the Pill Pagoda and arrived at the main hall in front of the Dubby Hall. Holy Sun, this old man has been waiting for a long time. It turned out that Grey Flame C was waiting for him in the Dubby Hall. Lord Grey Flame C, it has been a long time. Su Fong clasped his fist and greeted politely. Su Fong had met Grey Flame C back in the Azure Dome Starfield. Back then, Su Fong was only a weak deity emperor realm cultivator, while Grey Flame C was a powerful overgod. Su Fong had to look up to him. Su Fong's relationship with Grey Flame C was not as close as his relationship with Sheng Wuji and Mo Tiangong. When Su Fong entered the divine prison of law, everyone thought that he had died. Grey Flame C continued to stay in the Sanctum of Sages, but the master of the Sanctum of Sages was changed to Di Yuan. Holy Sun Su Fong, this old man is here on orders to return the Sanctum of Sages to you. Grey Flame C explained. Su Fong was surprised. Di Yuan is willing to hand over the Sanctum of Sages? Grey Flame C replied. This old man is just following orders. As for what happened to Holy Sun Di Yuan, this old man has no idea. The Sanctum of Sages is finally mine again. Su Fong was overjoyed. The Sanctum of Sages was a fortune divine artifact, and its cultivation environment surpassed that of a heaven realm Dao Plaza. Now that it was back in his hands, how could Su Fong not be happy? After leaving the Dubhe space, Su Fong returned to the Yuan Tiangong world and returned to the Sanctum of Sages. The guards were still the same as before, but many of them had died in the divine prison of law. Later on, 1,000 guards were replenished. With the help of the Holy Sun token, Su Fong reintegrated the Sanctum of Sages and entered the main hall. At this moment, he had placed all of his subordinates within the Builder Tree within his inner world. This time, He had also looted all of the various treasures and resources within the Alpha Hall. With such a good cultivation, holy ground, and such frightening cultivation resources, he naturally wanted to bring everyone along to improve. As a result, Su Fong released his father, Su Yaotian, Xian Yin Tian, Xian Lingzi, Shu Yunkong, and the other elders, as well as his friends and subordinates in the upper world and the myriad worlds, with the exception of those who had yet to become true gods from the Builder Tree. He distributed all kinds of resources to them and allowed them to cultivate in the Sanctum of Sages. Of course, the newly subdued Ji people who changed their surnames to Li, as well as the cultivators of the Ji people's former vassal forces, were not qualified to enjoy such treatment. The resources that Su Fong had taken out and the cultivation environment of the Sanctum of Sages had left everyone flabbergasted. It was as if a bunch of country bumpkins had just stumbled into a majestic royal palace, and they were so excited that they could not even tell which direction was which. With so many resources in the Sanctum of Sages, my kin, friends, and subordinates will surely be able to become experts within the next 100,000 years. Even if I came out of the celestial worthy mountain and was suppressed by the imperial people, they could still rely on their own strength to gain a foothold in the myriad worlds. It turned out that Su Fong was not only making use of the Sanctum of Sages to raise his overall strength, he was also preparing for the worst. In any case, it would be a waste if he did not make use of the Sanctum of Sages at this moment. There were 1,000 sub-halls in the Sanctum of Sages, and that was equivalent to 1,000 worlds. It was more than enough to accommodate so many people to cultivate simultaneously. No one could predict the outcome of the expedition to the celestial worthy mountain 100,000 years later. The only thing that Su Fong could do now was to seize every moment and raise the strength of himself, his kin, and his subordinates by hook or by crook. In another 100 years, after dealing with Di Yuan, I should enter the Palace of Dissension to save Senior Luo. At the same time, I have to find Xingyu, Sister Bai, and Luo's whereabouts. After settling everyone down, Su Fong pondered for a moment before settling down and digesting the results of his crazy plundering. The harvest this time was simply too boundless. Even though Su Fong's Jinchi world was a bottomless pit, with so many resources, he would not have to worry about running out of cultivation resources for the next 100,000 years. From a vast sea of resources, Zhang Xian picked out spirit materials suitable for Gui Gui, draconic bird, and prehistoric inflammation, and had them cultivate in the side halls of the Sanctum of Sages. Meanwhile, Su Fong entered the Hall of Spring and Autumn. In the Hall of Spring and Autumn, Su Fong traversed through the vast formations as if traversing through the endless river of time. Eventually, Su Fong arrived at a region where the flow of time was 100 times faster than the outside world. With the increase in his strength, the flow of time that Su Fong could withstand had also more than doubled. In the past, he could only withstand 50 times the flow of time, but now he could withstand 100 times the flow of time. This was the difference in strength between before and after. Sitting down cross-legged, Su Fong used the Azure Blood Dome to devour pills and spirit materials wantonly. At the same time, he also cultivated all kinds of cultivation techniques and abilities, mainly the 9 Yang transformations, Heavenly Fate shrinking technique, Heavenly Evolution arcane scripture, and ethereal scripture. Now, he also had the addition of the Yin Yang transformation and 4 divisions transformation. While Su Fong was immersed in his cultivation in the Sanctum of Sages, his wanton plundering of the Alpha Hall, Artifact Hall, and Pill Pagoda had caused a huge uproar in the Yuan Tiangong. This was too crazy. A single person had actually plundered the Alpha Hall clean. Even sovereigns would not dare to act so recklessly. Why are the imperial people and supreme sovereigns so conniving with Su Fong? Although Su Fong might be able to enter the supreme celestial mountain and find the reason for the upheaval, it's only a possibility after all. How dare he act so arrogantly now? He must be severely punished. What right does he have to fight for so many resources by himself? He's too domineering, too arrogant. Hearing this news, everyone was shocked. Then, their anger towards Su Fong was enough to burn the world down. This was especially true for the geniuses from the ancient divinity world, as well as some major factions and god clans. However, the supreme existences of the imperial people did not say anything. The sovereigns were also collectively speechless, and their anger gradually subsided. Heavenly Realm Training Hall. In a magnificent palace hidden in the void, Di Yuan's angry roar, like an injured beast, could be heard. Su Fong, you took away my sanctum of sages and my mountain fusion pill. I, Di Yuan, will not live under the same sky as you. In the challenge 100 years later, it's either you die or I die. During the marriage ceremony, the savior of the universe was exposed by Su Fong, causing Di Yuan to lose face and almost be suppressed by Su Fong. Then, the sanctum of sages was taken back by the upper echelons of the imperial people and returned to Su Fong. These days, Di Yuan fell into a state of madness, but he did not sink. He cultivated in the heavenly realm all day long, hoping to redeem his face in the challenge 100 years later. Unexpectedly, Su Fong also took away his mountain fusion pill in the pill pagoda. This caused Di Yuan to completely lose his mind. Di Yuan, your Tao heart has been blinded by hatred. What you need now is to calm down. The supreme existences of the imperial people appeared from the void and quickly became real. Sir, Di Yuan did not completely go crazy. After seeing the supreme existences of the imperial people, he quickly bowed. However, there was a look of indignation in his deep eyes. Di Yuan, you've disappointed me, do you know that? The supreme existences of the imperial people stared at Di Yuan, their eyes filled with disappointment. Di Yuan looked ashamed and lowered his head. I'm useless. I failed at the celestial worthy mountain and humiliated the supreme existences of the imperial people. That's why Su Fong dared to be so arrogant in front of the imperial people. Even Sir can't do anything to him. You're wrong. What disappointed me was not your failure at the celestial worthy mountain, but your performance after your failure. The supreme existences of the imperial people said in a deep voice. Which true expert didn't go through all sorts of twists and turns before they reached the highest peak? They experienced countless near-death experiences. In the end, they relied on their tenacious cultivator's heart to surpass all difficulties and obstacles and finally reach the peak. Those venerable sovereigns, even me and the guardian of the mountain, were the same. As for you, because of one failure, your Tao heart began to be disturbed. How can you talk about surpassing others and reaching the peak? The supreme existences of the imperial people's words made Di Yuan's back bend. After a pause, the supreme existences of the imperial people continued. Di Yuan, give up on the challenge in 100 years. Give up on the challenge? Di Yuan suddenly raised his head and looked at the supreme existences of the imperial people in disbelief. After thinking about it calmly, it was not difficult for Di Yuan to understand why the supreme existences of the imperial people would make such an arrangement. If Di Yuan failed to challenge Su Fong, it meant that the dignity of the imperial people was challenged again, and their prestige would be damaged again. If Di Yuan won, of course, the chances of him winning were extremely slim. Even if he won, what would he do to Su Fong? Su Fong was the only key person who could stop the catastrophe. Not only the imperial people, but also any forces in the universe would not allow Su Fong to be hurt in the slightest and affect the plan to enter the celestial worthy mountain in 100,000 years. Whether he won or lost, it was meaningless. The supreme existences of the imperial people naturally wanted to cancel the challenge. If I fail, how can I still have the face to establish myself in the universe? Di Yuan cried out in disbelief. You really disappoint me. Your goal is to reach the highest peak in the universe, to transcend heaven and earth. Now, you're even fighting a meaningless battle for a person who is about to die. How can I not be disappointed? A person who is about to die. Di Yuan understood the meaning behind the supreme existences of the imperial people's words, and his gaze suddenly became hale and hearty. Laughable face is the most unimportant thing. The most important thing is to live. When you have enough strength, even venerable sovereigns will be in awe and tremble for you when they hear your name. At that time, Who would dare to laugh at you? Di Yuan thought for a long time and raised his head. Di Yuan understands. It's good that you understand. In a few days, the Yuan Tiangong will send you to the most dangerous battlefield to fight against the resurrected powerhouses. In 100,000 years, if you can survive, you will still be the #1 genius of the imperial people, the #1 person in the Yuan Tiangong. Yes, Di Yuan pulled himself together. Although he was not as spirited as before, there was a determination and perseverance that he had never had before. On a desolate planet far away from the Hunyuan heaven realm, this used to be a divine realm. Later, it became desolate, and the gods gradually moved out of the planet. This place was also abandoned, and even the resurrected powerhouses did not visit this place. However, the Yuan Tiangong created a realm-crossing stargate here. From a Yuan Tiangong, one could directly travel through the void to reach this place. Because it was very secretive, no one knew that there was a realm-crossing stargate here, except for the upper echelons of the Yuan Tiangong and a few geniuses. Whoosh, following the distortion of space, a figure walked out of the realm-crossing stargate. This person looked old, and there was a faint tribulation fire surging in his eyes. It was the heavenly fire deity. That damned Su Fong, he was actually so arrogant that he even dared to plunder Dubby Hall. If I didn't leave Primordius' heavenly palace ahead of time, he might have come knocking on my door and forcefully stolen my purple energy law spirit. I can't afford to offend him. Can I hide? The heavenly fire deity's face was full of resentment, and he looked extremely helpless. The heavenly fire deity had come here to avoid Su Fong and prevent Su Fong from robbing his purple cloud Dharma spirit. Chapter 2355. 50 years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fong had spent 5,000 years in the Hall of Spring and Autumn. On this day, Su Fong flashed out of the Hall of Spring and Autumn and went to the depths of the main hall. Just as he sat down cross-legged, he heard a sizzling sound and the tribulation aura shot out from his body. Then, the tribulation fire started to burn. It turned out that after so many years of cultivation, Su Fong had reached the peak of the 8th heaven of the Tao integration stage and was about to break through to the 9th heaven. Together with the 9-yang divine fire and the illusory fire cloud, the tribulation fire burned wildly. The tribulation fire burned his flesh, blood, meridians, bones, organs. His body trembled violently. Layers of impurities seeped out of his body and turned into ashes in the tribulation fire. The tribulation fire was extremely shocking. It lasted for about 3 years before it gradually disappeared. The power of advancement in his body started to surge. His divine body welcomed the shattering, transformation, and reconstruction. The 8 heavenly marks in his body finally increased to 9. The number 9 represented the perfection of heaven and earth. It meant that Su Fong had reached the highest level of the Tao integration stage, the 9th heaven of the Tao integration stage. One more step, and he would reach the pinnacle of cultivation, the Master God. Feeling the changes in his body, Su Fong was very happy. His successive advancements were not only an increase in his strength, but also a kind of affirmation for his hard work and cultivation. Su Fong realized that apart from the changes in his body, divine apertures, and Tao Palace, most of the heavenly marks were the aura of the world in his body. This meant that his integration with the heavenly Tao was about to reach perfection. Besides, Su Fong had a strong feeling that it would be extremely difficult to become a master god. It was not because of the lack of resources, nor was it because of the shackles in his cultivation. It was because Yuan Tiangong was no longer enough for him to become a master god. After all, Yuan Tiangong was a world jointly created by the supreme beings of the imperial people and many venerable sovereigns. It was not perfect. It was like a lake that could no longer contain Su Fong, the true dragon. The vast ocean was the true dragon's world. After his breakthrough, Su Fong felt a sense of emptiness in his body. He hurriedly swallowed pills to recover, striving to stabilize his cultivation base at the 9th heaven of the Tao integration stage before his final battle with Di Yuan. Saint, I have something urgent to report. Just as he was about to return to the hall of spring and autumn to cultivate, Azure Flame Ocean sent him a message. What is it? The Imperial people sent someone over to say that Di Yuan has already canceled the challenge. Di Yuan canceled the challenge. Su Fong was both shocked and stunned. With Di Yuan's pride, he actually canceled the challenge. Since Di Yuan challenged the son of Saint, he would lose without a doubt. For the sake of the Imperial people's reputation, it's perfectly normal for the Imperial people to force him to cancel the challenge. I heard that Di Yuan has already been sent to the battlefield of the two realms. He won't be back for a while. Originally, I wanted to make use of this challenge to help Xuanxin vent his anger. Who would have thought that Di Yuan would actually slip away? If I had known earlier, I would have made a blood oath with him. Following that, Azure Flame Ocean added, "There's one more thing I need to report to the Son of Saint. Not long ago, Heavenly Fire Divine Lord suddenly left Yuan Tiangong. His whereabouts are unknown. There is no one in Primordius Heavenly Palace that didn't know of the matters between Heavenly Fire Divine Lord and Su Fong. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord was a Grandmaster Artificer that was second to none in the myriad worlds. Now that he had suddenly left Primordius Heavenly Palace, it had caused a great stir. Ash Flame naturally had to inform Su Fong. Even Heavenly Fire Divine Lord slipped away. Su Fong was filled with regret. He felt conflicted and remorseful. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord must have left Yuan Tiangong because he had been frightened by Su Fong's ransacking of Alpha Hall. If he had known this would happen, he would have captured Heavenly Fire Divine Lord directly and stripped him of his purple cloud Dharma spirit. How could such a thing have happened? How could a mighty overgod escape just like that? He's an overgod expert, after all. To escape just like that, he doesn't have the demeanor of a peerless overgod expert. Su Fong had not expected Heavenly Fire Divine Lord to be so cowardly. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord was not cowardly, but Su Fong's name, Su Huang, was too frightening. He had snatched the Builder Tree from the Emperor Expert of the Duanmu Divine Clan and plundered all the treasures in Alpha Hall. How could Heavenly Fire Divine Lord not be afraid when the Emperor Expert and the peerless existences of the Imperial people could not do anything to him? Su Fong snorted coldly in his heart. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord, even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will catch you. Your purple cloud Dharma spirit belongs to Su Fong. Azure Flame Ocean continued. Saint, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Hold on. Su Fong stopped him. My lord, please pass down the order for the guards to leave the Hunyuan Heaven Realm. At the same time, issue a mission in Alpha Hall to find my subordinate, Fan Ming, and my two Yao friends. If you find them, I'm willing to give you a half-creation artifact. Su Fong activated the power of the Yin-Yang world and condensed the figures of Fan Ming, Qing Yu, and Bai Ling. They formed a rune talisman and flew from the array into Azure Flame Ocean's hand. Fan Ming, Qing Yu, and Bai Ling had gone out to protect the Ji people's geniuses. However, some of them had not returned, which worried Su Fong very much. Qing Yu and Bai Ling, the two big goblin, were like Su Fong's family. He could not afford to lose them. Generous rewards would attract brave men. Su Fong had to find them at all costs. The resources in Su Fong's hands were not even comparable to those of venerable sovereigns. He had even plundered a few half-creation artifacts from Alpha Hall and Artifact Hall. However, he did not have a creation artifact. A creation artifact of this level was already the best treasure in the myriad heavens. Although it was sold in Alpha Hall, it was impossible to put the real thing in Alpha Hall. Therefore, Su Fong did not manage to find one. Also, help me find out about the Azura Divine Clan. Su Fong did not forget about Luo Fong and reminded him. Yes. Azure Flame Ocean left in shock, taking out a half-creation artifact to find a subordinate and two big goblin. In the entire Yuan Tiangong, only Su Fong could do such a thing. Xuanxin was sent to the guardian of Mount Exalted Celestial Mountain. There is still no news. Senior sister Shu Wanjin is still trapped in the descending Celestial Palace. I haven't contacted her for a long time, Su Fong took out the Hunyuan sacred mirror and sent his yang energy and consciousness into it. However, after a long time, there was still no response from Shu Wanjin. You gave senior sister a great opportunity. She will not be able to digest it in a short time. She should be cultivating now. The divine prison of law at the periphery of the descending celestial palace is already so dangerous that I almost lost my life. The descending celestial palace is 10 times more dangerous than the divine prison of law. Although I have reached the 8th transformation, I am not confident that I can enter the descending celestial palace. It would be better if I could become a peerless master god. The experience in the divine prison of law made Su Fong realize how terrifying the Mount Exalted Celestial Mountain was. At the same time, it made him realize how weak he was. Therefore, although the trip to the descending celestial palace was imperative, he had to be fully prepared. If he was trapped in the prison suppressing codex again, he would not be as lucky as before. After putting away the Hunyuan sacred mirror, Su Fong returned to the Hall of Spring and Autumn. He went to the depths of the Hall of Spring and Autumn and continued to cultivate. In addition to stabilizing his 9th heavenly stage Tao integration, he mainly cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations and broke through the 73rd Yang meridian. He also continued to cultivate various cultivation techniques and abhijnas. There were also some Dharma treasures that needed to be integrated. The God-slaying saber, the prison-suppressing codex, the heavenly supervisor token, and especially the Hunyuan sacred mirror. After forming the 72nd Yang meridian and reaching the 8th transformation, Su Fong could further control the Hunyuan sacred mirror and some of the supreme abhijnas in the mysterious space of the ancient mirror. The gigantified body of the diamond, Herculean palm, and indestructible golden body came from the Hunyuan sacred mirror. Su Fong had persisted in cultivating from the small world to the myriad worlds. Until now, it was still an unparalleled abhijnas in the myriad worlds. It was clear how amazing the abhijnas in the Hunyuan sacred mirror were. In addition, his natal Dharma treasure, the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, also needed to be continuously watered with spirit liquid refined from various materials to improve the quality of the Dharma treasure. Cultivation knew no time. Su Fong was in the depths of the formation space of the Hall of Spring and Autumn. The river of time flowed, and 10,000 years had passed without him realizing it. QL11 on this day, a violent aura suddenly surged from the depths of Su Fong's body. When he took a closer look, Su Fong couldn't help but be surprised and delighted. The 73rd Yang Meridian is about to be successfully formed. The spiritual items of the Alpha Hall are truly extraordinary. I can cultivate a Yang Meridian so quickly. The first Yang Meridian of the 9th transformation is about to be born. My strength will increase greatly once again. My cultivation speed will also undergo a great transformation. 10,000 years and countless spiritual items seemed difficult to form a Yang Meridian. However, for Su Fong, who had reached the 8th transformation, forming a Yang Meridian was incomparably difficult. To form a Yang Meridian in 10,000 years, Su Fong felt that it was fast enough. Su Fong began to activate the 9 Yang 9 transformations with all his strength. He used all the power of the 8th transformation Yang Meridian to attack the Yang Meridian outside. Boom, 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 boom. Like a tsunami, the Tao Palace of heaven and earth burned and trembled. The Yang energy passed through the world tree, causing Su Fong's yin-yang world power to continuously increase. At the same time, Su Fong began to activate the origin sacred mirror. He absorbed the cold yin energy from within and fused it with the fierce yang energy, making the yang energy more perfect and profound. Qi. After countless attacks, a flame swept through the first Yang meridian and rushed to the 73rd meridian. The 9 Yang divine fire burning in this meridian was immediately extinguished. This meridian also quickly turned into a jade-like Yang meridian. This newly formed Yang meridian automatically fused with the 72nd Yang meridian of the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, forming the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth with 73 Yang meridians. Another Yang Meridian has been born. My wanton plundering was not in vain. I didn't get a good name Su Huang in vain, Su Fong chuckled. He was extremely happy. He sensed. Su Fong discovered that the 9-yang divine fire in the Yang Meridian had turned from grayish-white to light red. It felt somewhat similar to the 9-yang true fire released by the Origin Sacred Mirror. The 9-yang true fire was the fire released by the Origin Sacred Mirror. No other fire could be compared to it. It was terrifying and overbearing. Chapter 23:56. Afterwards, Su Fong devoured spiritual items that contained pure yang essence to replenish the yang qi he had used up to form the 73rd yang meridian. After reaching the 8th transformation, forming a yang meridian was much more difficult than before. The consumption of yang qi after forming a yang meridian was extremely shocking. I've successfully condensed another yang meridian. I'm getting closer and closer to achieving the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. Su Fong was filled with anticipation about how powerful he would become when he condensed all 81 yang meridian and reached the 9th transformation. He would be able to control the Origin Sacred Mirror completely. Apart from forming a yang meridian, Su Fong's world of yin and yang gradually rose from the normal state of the 9th heavenly layer to the peak. This was mainly the result of the accumulation of countless resources. Moreover, they were not regular resources either. They were all high-grade pills and spiritual items that were extremely useful to the cultivation of overgods. Regular resources were useless to Su Fong now. There were also many benefits. In the past few years, Su Fong had constantly fused with the Heaven Supervising Badge and the Prison Suppression Codex. He could now use over half of the power of the 2 divine artifacts. Although the 2 divine artifacts have been heavily damaged after being corrupted and only had 1/10 of their original power remaining, Su Fong could only use half of their power now. They were still extremely shocking. Su Fong estimated that he could easily suppress upper-rank lords just by activating these 2 heavenly law divine weapons. Coupled with his other divine abilities, he could even suppress peak lords. After fusing with the Origin Sacred Mirror over the past few years, controlling it clearly became much easier. It was similar to when he controlled a god artifact in the Great World. Although he still could not control it as freely as before, it was not as mysterious and vast as before. Even without Shu Wanjin working with him right now, whether it was the yin-yang transformation or the transformation of 4 symbols, the power that the Origin Sacred Mirror could erupt with was extremely shocking. Su Fong estimated that he could even easily kill peak overgods if he used the 2 seals. However, there was a limit. The amount of yang qi consumed to use the Origin Sacred Mirror was still extremely shocking. He could only use it once at most, so he could only save his trump card for last. In the space inside the mirror, Su Fong also made an unexpected discovery. One of the rare superpowers was similar to the giant body of the Vajra. It also required a perfect physical body. However, the difference was that this superpowers required yang qi and extreme cold qi. At the same time, it had to be combined with the yin-yang transformation. This peerless great divine ability was called the Divine Annihilation Fist. Different from the Herculean Divine Palm, the Fist of Annihilation didn't rely on brute force. Instead, it relied on the concept of the yin-yang transformation and was executed through the body of a perfect perfection saint. The power contained within the Fist of Annihilation contained the terrifying power of destroying matter and divine abilities, as well as the power to reverse one's sentient state. In terms of power, the apocalyptic fist was definitely not any weaker than the Herculean palm. Furthermore, it was combined with the concept of the yin-yang transformation. The amount of yang energy consumed was also much less than the Herculean palm, and it could be used for a longer period of time. In addition, he also obtained a great divine ability from the space inside the mirror. It was called the Great Reincarnation Art. This mystique required the Origin Sacred Mirror and the concept of the 4 divisions transformation. Its ability was somewhat similar to the Underworld Reincarnation Sword, which was to counter the enemy's attack through reincarnation. However, The Origin Sacred Mirror's supreme divine ability was far from what the Reincarnation Sword could compare to. The ability of the Four Divisions transformation was to reconstruct from matter to superpowers. It could even replicate life. The Great Reincarnation Art was actually to replicate the enemy's superpowers and spells with the help of the Four Divisions transformation and the Origin Sacred Mirror. Its power was naturally not as great as the Four Divisions seal, but its consumption was not great. With Su Fang's vast energy, it was almost negligible. With these two abilities, I possess the strength to take on over-gods in an open battle. It won't be like before, where I basically lost the ability to fight as soon as I used trump cards like the yin-yang transformation and the transformation of the four symbols. At the end of the day, whether it is the giant body of the Vajra, the yin-yang transformation, or the Four Divisions transformation, they all originated from the Nine Suns transformation. From this, it can be seen how astonishing the Nine Suns transformation is. As expected of a technique personally created by the Genesis Heavenly Lord, it surpasses all other techniques. The more Su Fang understood the Nine Suns transformation, the more shocked he was. There was also something that Su Fang had been worried about. QL11, although there was a huge bounty mission, there was still no news from Qingyu, Bai Ling, and Luo. Shu Wanjin was still cultivating. Clearly, she had reached a critical juncture. Su Fang had tried to contact her many times through the Origin Sacred Mirror, but to no avail. About 300 years passed. The yang energy in Su Fang's body had been depleted, and he had recovered to his peak state. Once again, time waited for no man, and he continued to cultivate. Time flew by. 1,000 years had passed in the outside world, but Su Fang had spent an astonishing 100,000 years in the Hall of Spring and Autumn. Ever since he stepped onto the path of cultivation, this was the first time he had spent such a long time in seclusion. On this day, Su Fang flew out of the Sanctum of Sages and arrived at the main hall. He sat cross-legged for about 100 years before the backlash from the passage of time slowly dissipated. This was the drawback of cultivating for a long time in the passage of time. Cultivating in the Hall of Spring and Autumn could save a lot of time, but the difference in time compared to the outside world would cause an astonishing backlash. Ordinary gods would not be able to withstand it. After cultivating for such a long time, I've finally reached the pinnacle of the ninth heaven of the Tao integration stage. However, it's so difficult to advance to the Master God level. Su Fang could not help but shake his head and sigh. He now had almost inexhaustible cultivation resources, and he did not lack time. Moreover, he cultivated the supreme heavenly Tao. However, after 100,000 years, he still could not advance to the Master God level. He felt like he was separated by a layer of paper. He could break through it with a poke, but he still could not break through this bottleneck. Every time I try to break through to the next realm, it becomes much more difficult. Obviously, it's because the Tao I cultivate is different from others. Su Fang thought for a moment and transmitted his thoughts to the void. Lord Emperor Unidao, Su Fang has something to ask of you. Emperor Unidao, Emperor Sangqiu, and Emperor Fandi. These three supreme emperors had left their primordial spirits hidden in the void. Now that Su Fang was in danger, they would immediately rush over. Less than 10 breaths after Su Fang transmitted his thoughts, a divine light flashed out of thin air and quickly condensed into the form of Emperor Unidao. Thank you, Lord Emperor, for saving the realm Lord of Frost Shaw. Su Fang respectfully cupped his fists. It turned out that while Su Fang was cultivating in seclusion, Emperor Unidao had already restored the realm Lord of Frost Shua's divine palace. For Supreme Emperor, this was not difficult. It's a small matter, not worth mentioning. Emperor Unidao waved his hand and said, "Speak. What do you want from me this time?" Su Fang slowly explained the problem he had encountered in his cultivation to Emperor Unidao. As expected of Supreme Emperor, he immediately saw through Su Fang's problem. He chuckled and said, "Actually, what's troubling you is not some bottleneck, but your lack of accumulation." Su Fang said in surprise, "Lack of accumulation? I've been cultivating in seclusion for 100,000 years in the Hall of Spring and Autumn of the Saint Prince's Hall. and I've had an endless supply of all kinds of spiritual items. How could it be lack of accumulation? Emperor Uni Dao was speechless and smiled bitterly. Do you know how long it took me to become a master god from the time I became a cultivator? More than 5 epochs. Su Fangdao was shocked. 1 epoch was 2 billion years. 5 epochs, how long was that? You think my cultivation talent is poor, don't you? Su Fang hurriedly shook his head. A cultivator who could become a supreme emperor was definitely a peerless genius that was hard to come by even in 10 epochs. Moreover, it required unparalleled luck and hard work. Otherwise, it would be impossible to reach such a peak. Only now did he understand how difficult it was to become a master god. Only Dao Emperor continued. If it's possible to become a master god or emperor just by relying on resources and cultivation techniques, then wouldn't there be master gods and emperors everywhere among the powerful forces and ancient god clans? Whether it's resources, cultivation techniques, or talent. Although they are indispensable, they are not everything. Peerless master gods and supreme emperors are not things that can be piled up with resources. They are things that can be cultivated step by step. What you lack now is accumulation and accumulation. However, you don't have much time left. It's very difficult to become a master god in 100,000 years. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible. Emperor Uni Dao shook his head repeatedly. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed. Please advise me, Supreme Emperor. Emperor Uni Dao pondered for a while and said, there are many other ways for a cultivator to improve their cultivation besides accumulation and accumulation. With your current situation, it's obviously impossible to build a cart behind closed doors. What you cultivate is the supreme heavenly Tao. You can only explore it on your own. Therefore, it's also impossible to ask experts to give you pointers, teach you, or cleanse your marrow. Elixirs, spiritual items, divine artifacts, and other supplementary items are obviously not suitable for you. You've plundered the divine pivot hall clean. Even I'm not as rich as you. TSK. I can't help but admire the name Su Huang. At this point, Emperor Uni Dao chuckled. Su Fang smiled bitterly and touched the tip of his nose. The best way is to experience life and death and break through your limits in the midst of life and death. However, the safety of all the worlds is at stake now. How can I let you risk your life? Emperor Uni Dao shook his head repeatedly. Su Fang pondered for a long time. His eyes were filled with determination. It seems that this is the only way. He was able to achieve what he had today because he had a brave heart. It was precisely in the midst of life and death dangers that he obtained opportunities and sharpened his Tao heart. He overcame all the difficulties and obstacles and surpassed his peak time and time again. Emperor Uni Dao revealed a look of approval. The reason why Di Yuan is not as good as you is because he lacks such life and death experiences. Therefore, he went to the battlefield of the Two Realms River. If he can survive there, his future achievements may not be inferior to yours. The battlefield of the Two Realms River? Su Fang was stunned. What is that place? Chapter 23:57. It turned out, the Hunyuan heaven was almost breached by the resurrected powerhouses, and the Ji people's ancestor was possessed by a demon powerhouse. This caused a stir in the Hunyuan heaven and the Yuan Tiangong. After Di Yuan failed to enter the exalted celestial mountain, everyone thought that the myriad worlds would not be able to stop the catastrophe. Even the supreme existences of the imperial people were disheartened and had the intention to let the myriad worlds fend for themselves. Su Fang once again brought hope to the myriad worlds. In addition, the heavenly Tao order was rapidly returning to normal, so everyone cheered up again. The Yuan Tiangong realized that the Hunyuan heaven alone was far from enough. They needed more starfields and god realms as the periphery to resist the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and the evil path. As a result, the Yuan Tiangong dispatched more than 20 supreme sovereigns, and even the supreme existences of the imperial people personally took action. Not only did they sweep away all the resurrected powerhouses outside the Hunyuan heaven, but they also killed nearly 10,000 resurrected powerhouses demon powerhouses, and countless other powerhouses in the thousands of starfields near the Hunyuan heaven. The morale of the righteous path cultivators was greatly boosted, especially those isolated god realms trapped in the myriad world's major starfields. They were originally in despair and had the intention to live one day at a time. At this time, their fighting spirit and hope were rekindled. Under the organization of a Yuan Tiangong, the cultivators of the god realm rescued and subdued more than half of the starfields. Although they could not eliminate all the resurrected powerhouses, the chaotic state of the past was quickly restored to normal. However, the resurrected powerhouses, as well as the demon race and evil existence that walked out of the dark world, not only were there a large number of them, but their strength was also incomparably astonishing. Although they were not at the level of destroying the myriad worlds, they had reached the level of being equal to the cultivators of the god realm. In particular, what surprised and shocked the cultivators of the god realm was that the resurrected powerhouses were no longer as scattered as before. Instead, they had a tight and strict force. Coupled with the demon race and other evil existences, the Yuan Tiangong, after a fierce counterattack, gradually confronted the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and other forces. The guardian of the exalted celestial mountain personally took action. With a supreme ability, he changed the nature of the world and created a natural moat in the myriad worlds, blocking the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and other evil forces outside the natural moat. This natural moat was the River of Two Realms. The side of the two-world river that was close to Yuan Tiangong was controlled by the righteous cultivators, while the other side of the river had completely fallen into enemy hands. So in just a short 1,000 years, the myriad worlds have changed so much. Su Fong was shocked after hearing Emperor Venerable's explanation. At this time, in addition to the cultivators of the righteous Tao, there are also 4 other powerful forces: the resurrected experts, the devil race, the demon race, and the dark forces from the dark world. Although the resurrected experts, the devil clan, the demon clan, and the dark faction are also enemies of the righteous faction, they're not allies. On the other side of the two-world rivers, they're also fighting each other endlessly. Although the two-world river has divided the universe into two, it doesn't mean that everything is fine. If we don't completely wipe out the evil forces, the universe will fall into their hands sooner or later. Therefore, the Yuan Tiangong has offered great rewards to encourage cultivators to go to the River of Two-World River. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses are also using the River of Two-World River as a training ground. The resurrected experts and other evil forces are also unwilling to only occupy half of the universe, so they're constantly infiltrating the River of Two-World River. Therefore, the broken god realm and material ruins in the River of Two-World River have become the battlefield for the two sides to fight. Therefore, the most dangerous place in the universe isn't the danger zone, or the wasteland, but the River of Two-World River. No matter how powerful a cultivator is, their individual strength is insignificant in the River of Two-World River. It is completely a meat grinder that strangles cultivators and resurrects experts. Emperor Venerable continued to speak tirelessly. Su Fong paused for a moment, then stared at Emperor Venerable. Emperor Venerable, do you mean that I should go to the River of Two-World River to train and find an opportunity to break through to the Lord God realm? If you want to break through, the River of Two-World River is of course the best place. Emperor Venerable nodded. Moreover, if you kill the resurrected experts in the River of Two-World River, not only will you receive a generous reward, you will also receive an invisible reward, and that is merit. Merit. The world is changing, and the heavenly Tao is in danger of being destroyed. Killing the resurrected experts is protecting the heavenly Tao, so you will receive the protection of the heavenly Tao and be bestowed with luck. This is merit. Su Fong immediately understood. The so-called luck was the affinity and protection of the heavenly Tao for cultivators. The resurrected experts were an anomaly that went against and destroyed the heavenly Tao. If cultivators killed the resurrected experts, they would naturally receive the protection of the heavenly Tao and receive luck, which was the merit that Emperor Venerable spoke of. Su Fong already knew this when he was in the resting land of the gods in the Blue Dome star field. Emperor Venerable continued, "The more luck you have, the more chances you have to break through. In addition, the Yuan Tiangong is a supreme existence of the imperial people after all. It is a small universe created from the world, so it is not suitable for the supreme heavenly Tao that you cultivate." Su Fong deeply agreed with Emperor Venerable's words. However, Emperor Venerable then changed the topic. "However, your current status is special. If something happens to you in the river of Two World River, the world will change, and everything will lose its meaning. You have to think carefully about what to do." "I will think carefully. Thank you for your reminder, Venerable." As Su Fong nodded, Emperor Venerable's figure slowly disappeared into nothingness. After Emperor Venerable left, Su Fong fell into deep thought. "Holy Son Su Fong, there is news about the matter you asked me to investigate." Song Yanhai's nascent soul transmitted, interrupting Su Fong's thoughts. He immediately became spirited. "There is news about Qingyu, Sister Bai, and the others." Song Yanhai's nascent soul cupped his fists at Su Fong. "Not only your two monster friends and Fan Ming, but there is also news about the Shura Divine Clan that you asked me to investigate." It turned out that Su Fong had sent out the guards of the Sanctum of Sages to the Yuan Tiangong at the same time to issue a mission. As expected, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. He had obtained useful information. Just as the venerable masters were killing the resurrected experts outside the blood wall of the Hunyuan heaven, many over-god masters also joined the battle. One of the over-god masters had encountered an expert from the Shura Divine Clan when he was chasing after the resurrected experts. Among the Shura Divine Clan experts, there were two powerful big goblin masters and a domain lord master. They were exactly the people that Su Fong was looking for. Qingyu, Sister Bai, and the others actually joined forces with the Shura Divine Clan experts. Su Fong was not surprised. What happened after that? According to the Overgod Master, there was not only a powerful expert among the Shura Divine Clan experts, but there was also an evil and incomparably powerful monkey demon. In the end, the Overgod Master used a life-saving method to escape. As for what happened after that, no one knows. After that, the Hunyuan heaven fought back against the resurrected experts and other evil forces, driving countless evil forces experts out of the Two World River. In the battlefield of the Two World River, many people also fought with the Shura Divine Clan experts. Perhaps your big goblin friends and the Shura Divine Clan experts retreated to the other side of the Two World River. Song Yanhai took out a jade slip and flew it to Su Fong. "This is the jade slip condensed by the Overgod Master. Take a look and see if this is the person you're looking for." Su Fong infused his magic power into the jade slip. The jade slip quickly melted and transformed into lifelike figures. Qingyu, Bai Ling, Fan Ming, Luo, and the monkey demon were among them. "Finally, I have news of Qingyu, Sister Bai, and Luo. I didn't expect the immortal blood spirit I created, Luo, and the others to be together." Su Fong's heart instantly calmed down. With Luo and the other's strength, under normal circumstances, venerable sovereigns would not attack them. If they encountered an overgod master, even if they were no match for him, they could still escape with ease. It's highly likely that Luo, Qingyu, and Sister Bai have retreated to the other side of the Two World River. I have to go to the Two World River no matter what. Su Fong had already made up his mind. Whether it was for a breakthrough or for Luo, Qingyu, and Bai Ling, he had to go to the Two World River. After making up his mind, Su Fong immediately transmitted his thoughts to his friends, family, and subordinates who were cultivating in the various sub-halls of the Sanctum of Sages. "I have decided to go to the Two World River. Other than the Tao-fusing cultivators and the Big Goblin, everyone else will stay in the Sanctum of Sages to cultivate." What kind of place is the Two World River? Everyone else was cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages, so they had no idea what was happening outside. Su Fong briefly explained the situation. He did not tell them the real danger of the Two World River. He only said that he was going out to train and look for Qingyu and Bai Ling. Next, Su Fong made arrangements. Su Fong's friends, family, and subordinates who were cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages, as well as the alchemists and artifact masters, were all left in the Sanctum of Sages. Su Fong also created a clone and stayed in the Sanctum of Sages. Nearly 4,000 Dao fusing cultivators, Big Goblin, and most of them are cultivators. Su Fong took them all into the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Of course, Su Fong had to take his second primordial spirit, Gui, Dragonbird, and use clone with him. In addition, the purpose of this trip to the Two-World River was to make a breakthrough. Naturally, Su Fong had to take the 100 million people living in the Two-World River with him. Then, Su Fong transmitted his thoughts to God Monarch Uni Dao and God Monarch Sanxio, asking them to take care of everyone in the Sanctum of Sages. Finally, there was one last thing that Su Fong was worried about. Before he left, he had to solve it. Lord Brahma Monarch. Su Fong transmitted his thoughts to the void, and soon, God Monarch Sanskrit appeared in the Sanctum of Sages. What's the matter? Brahma Monarch felt a headache coming on. How could he feel comfortable being ordered around like a subordinate? Su Fong clasped his fists and said, I'll have to trouble Lord Brahma Monarch to make a trip to the Great Worlds and bring the faction I've established in the Great Worlds, Square Heaven Monarch, to the myriad worlds. In the past, Su Fong did not have the strength to move the entire Square Heaven Monarch to the myriad worlds. Now that there was a ready-made errand runner, and it was a God Monarch, how could Su Fong let go of such an opportunity? Chapter 2358. Asking a Supreme Sovereign, a top existence in the universe, to run errands in the great world was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. QL11, however, in the current situation, Su Fong had to be cautious. Su Fong said, I'm going to be in seclusion for a long time. At least for the next 30,000 years, I won't bother the Supreme Sovereign. Moreover, this matter was as easy as lifting a finger for His Excellency the Emperor, so why not? Besides, I'll send my subordinates to follow you to the great world. You don't have to worry about ordinary things. Humph, in that case, I'll have to go to the great world. As soon as he heard that Su Fong wouldn't bother him anymore, the Supreme Sovereign of Sanskrit immediately agreed. Then, with a flash of divine light, he disappeared into nothingness. Su Fong was still a little worried. He sent Hua Dongjun, an expert he had subdued in the space of the Prison Suppression Codex. This person not only had the strength of a domain master, but he was also very shrewd. Su Fong was very relieved to send him to the great world with the Supreme Sovereign of Sanskrit. After everything had been arranged properly, Yi Zichen decided to leave. Su Fong took out a rune talisman and sent a message to the Supreme Sovereign of Imperial People. My lord, I've decided to go to the Two Realms River to train and find an opportunity to break through to the King God Realm. I'm here to bid farewell to you. Only half an hour later, the Supreme Sovereign of Imperial People's consciousness descended on the Saint Temple and condensed into a majestic figure. The Two Realms River is extremely dangerous. Although you have the strength to fight against Supreme Sovereigns, you still have the risk of dying. Are you sure you want to go to the Two Realms River? Su Fong said decisively, Yes, I've made up my mind. In that case, I won't stop you. It'll be difficult for you to break through if you stay in Yuan Tiangong. It's wise to go to the Two Realms River to train. The Supreme Sovereign of Imperial People nodded and said. Then, he said, You're related to the safety of the universe. Therefore, in the Two Realms River, the first thing you need to do is to stay alive. Then, find an opportunity to break through. I'll keep the news of you going to the Two Realms River secret. You have to know that you're the resurrected powerhouse and the most wanted person of the demons. If they know you're going to the Two Realms River, they'll definitely send Supreme Sovereigns to kill you. I have already prepared for this. In addition, since you've just escaped from the Dao River and you're concerned about the safety of your friends and family, I'll let you vent as much as you want and won't fuss about it with you. However, there's one thing you must understand. If you fail to enter the exalted celestial mountain after 100,000 years, even if I don't kill you, no one in the myriad of worlds will be able to survive. Thank you for your magnanimity, sir. Su Fong showed a grateful expression. In reality, He was laughing coldly in his heart. Wait until I enter the celestial worthy mountain. Even if I succeed, won't you still kill me when I'm done with it? He then gazed at the supreme existence of the imperial people. As long as you can guarantee the safety of my family and friends, I'll do my best. Even if I have to die, I'll enter the celestial worthy mountain and find a way to stop the world's metamorphosis. This is a small matter. I can guarantee it. The supreme being of the imperial people nodded. He was a supreme existence in the myriad of worlds. In his eyes, Su Fang's family and friends were just a bunch of ants. How could he deliberately target them? He only needed a single thought to do this, so naturally, he agreed to it without hesitation. Then, he raised his hand and shot out a Xian Guang, which landed on the rune talisman in Su Fang's hand. I left a thought in the rune talisman. If you encounter a critical moment, crush the rune talisman, and I'll show up to save you immediately. Unexpectedly, Su Fang rolled out a wave of divine power and crushed the rune talisman into pieces. I went to the Two Realms River to train myself this time, to find an opportunity to break through in the life and death situations. If I have something to rely on, what's the point of the so-called training? The supreme being of the imperial people revealed a look of approval in his eyes. He nodded and said, with such a Tao heart and will, you will definitely be able to break through smoothly on this trip to the Two Realms River. About 50 years later, outside the Hunyuan Heaven Realm, there was a huge floating object. Su Fang, who had changed his appearance, sat cross-legged in front of a huge stargate with over 300 cultivators. At this moment, Su Fang had transformed into a young man in his mid-20s. He had a handsome face and an extraordinary temperament. His aura was only at the fourth heaven of the Supreme God realm. At this moment, even a peak Supreme God expert would find it difficult to see his true appearance and strength. This was because he had used the aura of the fruit of sin to fuse with one of the three human skins. Apart from the overbearing Blood Venerable and his son, as well as the three Yuan Tiangong geniuses, Di Yuan, Qin Gang, and Chu Bingyan, who had seen this appearance, the others had all died in the Divine Law prison. At that time, no one knew that he was Su Fang in disguise, so Su Fang's true identity would not be exposed. At this moment, Su Fang was a resurrected expert and someone that the demon race wanted to kill. He had to be careful. Even the news of him going to the River of Two Realms was strictly sealed. At this moment, his identity was that of a wandering cultivator from a small realm, the turbid wave divine world, that had been destroyed by the resurrected expert. He was preparing to go to the River of Two Realms through the Stargate outside, the Hunyuan Heaven Realm. The 300 or so deities around him were similar in status to Su Fang. They were all wandering cultivators from various divine realms. They were tempted by the rich rewards of being in the Yuan Tiangong and were preparing to go to the River of Two Realms to earn merits. Although the cultivation of these deities was not very high, most of them were in the Supreme God realm, and a few were in the Tao integration realm. However, each of them had a murderous aura, and their strength was extraordinary. It was obvious that they had experienced many storms in the past. Compared to the other cultivators, Su Fang was extraordinarily handsome. It was easy for people to think that he was a talented person from a major force in the myriad realms. He attracted the attention of many people. My name is Su Zhongliang. May I know your name? A young man walked over and cupped his fists at Su Fang. This person's cultivation was extraordinary. He had reached the height of a seventh heaven divine venerable. Moreover, he was very tactful. During the period of waiting to enter the realm crossing Stargate, he had befriended almost everyone. He had a good relationship with everyone and was very popular. Su Fang calmly replied, "Turbid wave cloud." Su Zhongliang smiled and said, "This trip to the River of Two Realms is extremely dangerous. When the time comes, why don't we join forces and enter the River of Two Realms together? There's strength in numbers, and we can split the merit points equally. What do you think?" "I'm sorry. I'm used to being free and undisciplined. I'm not used to joining forces with others. Many of us have already agreed to team up with you. There are even Tao integration experts in our group. Why don't you think about it?" "I'm not interested." "You're just a fourth heaven supreme god. You're just going to die in the river of two realms. What's there to be arrogant about? After being rejected by Su Fong, Su Zhongliang's sharp gaze swept across Su Fong before he left angrily. Su Fong was speechless and smiled bitterly. He did not say anything else. After waiting for 10 days, the Stargate still did not show any signs of opening. Many cultivators began to get anxious. Everyone, an old man with a goatee, appeared in front of everyone. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they sensed the aura of this person. This old man with a goatee was a territorial lord who was at the peak of the Tao integration realm. He was only one step away from the Overgod realm. I'm Territorial Lord Wuzhen. I'm responsible for escorting Yuan Tiangong geniuses to the River of Two Realms. There will be a group of Yuan Tiangong geniuses going to the River of Two Realms through the Stargate. Therefore, the Stargate has been requisitioned and can only be reopened 3 years later. You have two choices. Territorial Lord Wuzhen waved his hand and led the Yuan Tiangong disciples into the Stargate, followed by the other itinerant cultivators. Chapter 23:59. Su Fong and the others who were heading to the River of Two Realms passed through the Starry Gate. After passing through the Starry Gate 9 times, they were not far from the River of Two Realms. They would arrive after 3 more Starry Gates. When they walked out of the realm crossing Starry Gate, they saw a chaotic and vast space torn apart, blocking their way. This chaotic area was left behind by a battle between a venerable sovereign from Yuan Tiangong and a resurrected expert who was comparable to a venerable sovereign 1,000 years ago. The space was broken, and there were turbulent flows everywhere. The natural energy of heaven and earth was chaotic, and the laws collapsed, showing a chaotic and strange vision of heaven and earth. Since the realm-crossing Starry Gate could not directly pass through this chaotic area, they had to use magic treasures to cross it. Region Master Wuzhen took out a treasure ship magic treasure. After activating it, it turned into a treasure ship that was hundreds of feet long. It carefully carried the crowd and flew toward the chaotic area. It took a year to pass through this chaotic area. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses were arranged to stay in rooms in the cabin, while Su Fong and the other rogue cultivators could only stay on the deck. Su Fong sat cross-legged on the deck and closed his eyes to cultivate. The other rogue cultivators began to chat and befriend each other. Some of the bolder ones went to curry favor with the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. The young man, named Su Zhongliang, who boasted that his appearance and cultivation were extraordinary, tried his best to win the favor of the Yuan Tiangong woman. Unexpectedly, he really hit the jackpot. A Yuan Tiangong woman actually took a fancy to him, which made him very proud and arrogant in front of many rogue cultivators for a while. Soon, Su Zhongliang became the woman's subject. They stuck together in the cabin and did not show up for several months. Some rogue cultivators were envious. Su Zhongliang had climbed up the social ladder and had a meteoric rise from then on. Unexpectedly, half a year later, Su Zhongliang returned to the deck again. At this time, Su Zhongliang had completely changed. In just half a year, he had aged 20 years. His face was haggard, skinny, and his breath was weak. He looked like he had lost a lot of blood and qi. When everyone saw this, they were all shocked and stunned. Su Fong was also very surprised. Su Fong was stunned and speechless after he used his great perfection ability to sense the treasured ship. Why was that? Those Yuan Tiangong geniuses on the treasured ship were also discussing this matter. From their conversation, Su Fong knew the whole story. It turned out that the woman who had taken a fancy to Su Zhongliang had an extraordinary identity. She was from the ancient divine clan of the myriad of worlds in the universe, the Yin clan. Su Fong was naturally familiar with the Yin clan. Before entering the Yuan Tiangong, he had a fierce conflict with the Yin clan's peerless genius, Yin Buji. Later on, it was the Yin clan's higher-ups who came forward to apologize to Su Fong. Only then was the enmity resolved. The woman's name was Yin Tianjiao. She was a genius of the Yin clan's main bloodline. She cultivated the Yin-Yang Great Tao that was passed down in the Yin clan. Her cultivation level was also extraordinary. She was a first-stage Tao integration stage expert. This woman was somewhat similar to Yin Buji. Even though she was born with a heavenly beauty and was incomparably beautiful, she was yin-yang person. A yin-yang person was a monster who was both male and female. However, unlike Yin Buji, who was neither male nor female, this Yin Tianjiao was both male and female. Moreover, she was both male and female. Su Zhongliang thought that he had won the Yin clan's favor. Little did he know that he had been shackled in a room by Yin Tianjiao and had endless intercourse to devour his vitality and yang qi. Not only that, Yin Tianjiao was also a pervert. She tortured Su Zhongliang. Not only did Su Zhongliang's cultivation level and vitality get sucked away, he was also ravaged by Yin Tianjiao. After half a year, it was already good enough that he was still alive. Su Fong learned about Yin Tianjiao's fetish from the discussions of those Yuan Tiangong geniuses. He couldn't help but sigh. How could the Yin clan produce such a freak? That Su Zhongliang was really too unlucky. He took the initiative to deliver himself to the Yin clan and was tortured half to death. You Yin Zhuolong! Su Zhongliang suddenly pointed at Su Fong and shouted, Miss Yin wants you to go to her. Su Fong's eyebrows furrowed. He still sat there with his eyes closed, as if he didn't hear anything. Su Zhongliang said fiercely, Don't pretend to be deaf and dumb. Your fortune is here. Miss Yin wants you to go to her. Su Zhongliang was also a cold and ruthless person. When he was down on his luck, he wanted to drag others down with him. Among the wandering cultivators, Su Fong was the most handsome. In addition, Su Fong had rejected Su Zhongliang before. Therefore, he chose Su Fong first. Su Fong slowly opened his eyes. I can't enjoy the fortune that young Master Su enjoys. I'll leave it to young Master Su. Su Zhongliang sneered. You dare to go against Miss Yin? Just wait for your misfortune. After saying that, he directly transmitted his voice to Yin Tianjiao in the cabin. A moment later, a woman in a red robe came to the deck. This woman also looked very beautiful. Many wandering cultivators couldn't help but swallow their saliva at the sight of her. But when they saw Su Zhongliang's appearance, it was as if they had been splashed with a bucket of ice water. They completely dispelled their crooked thoughts. QL, 11-inch, not bad. Seeing Su Fong, Yin Tianjiao's phoenix eyes lit up like a hungry wolf seeing a pig or sheep. This kid is going to be unlucky. Many wandering cultivators felt sorry for Su Fong. You're called Yin Zhuolong? Come with me. Not only will I reward you with pills, but I'll also let you experience the bliss of the world. Yin Tianjiao said to Su Fong with a smile. His voice was soft and full of charm. Not interested. Su Fong closed his eyes again and said indifferently. Su Zhongliang snorted and fanned the flames. Miss Yin, this person is a madman. If we don't teach him a lesson, he'll really think he's a big shot. This is what I like. Yin Tianjiao licked her red lips. Her eyes were burning hot as she looked at Su Fong. You're not interested, but I'm interested in you. As soon as she finished speaking, two Xianguang flashed from Yin Buji's eyes. A yin-yang divine aura enveloped Su Fong. Damn Yin clan monster. Su Fong was extremely depressed and furious in his heart. However, he couldn't expose his true identity in front of everyone. He could only use his fourth heaven divine venerable cultivation to barely break Yin Tianjiao's shackles. Then, Su Fong pretended to be injured. He rolled on the deck a few times and leaned against the side of the treasure ship. Just as Yin Tianjiao was about to make a move to shackle Su Fong, a woman's voice came from the cabin. Yin Tianjiao, these are all cultivators who went to the Two-World River to work for the human race. Don't go too far. Yin Tianjiao seemed to be a little afraid of this woman and immediately restrained herself. Yin Zhuolong, I'll wait for you below. Yin Tianjiao looked at Su Fong and smiled charmingly. Then, she waved at Su Fong. A shocking suction force erupted from her palm and pulled Su Fong to her side. Then, with lightning speed, she opened her mouth and spat out a pink cloud directly onto Su Fong's face. Su Fong breathed in a wisp of pink mist. Instantly, he felt the pure yang fire in his body begin to surge. A strong desire rose in his heart. The pink mist that Yin Tianjiao spat out was actually a type of sex medicine. Yin Tianjiao, how dare you be so unrestrained? A figure broke through the air and appeared on the deck. It was a white-clothed woman with fair skin. She looked very gentle and quiet. Her cultivation level was 2 stages higher than Yin Tianjiao's, reaching the 3rd heavenly stage of Tao integration. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses all improved at an astonishing speed. Over the years, many Yellow Realm geniuses had reached Tao integration. This white-clothed woman's cultivation level was at the 3rd heavenly stage of Tao integration. Clearly, she was one of the best Yellow Realm geniuses. Muqing, don't think that you can order me around just because you're having an affair with Chu Bingyan. No one can take the man I like away from me. Yin Tianjiao snorted coldly. She didn't take the white-clothed woman seriously. Su Fong was stunned. He didn't expect this woman to be Chu Bingyan's confidant. He used the power of the 9 suns to refine the medicinal power in his body while glancing at the white-clothed woman a few more times. Yin Tianjiao, don't be so presumptuous. Another genius arrived on the deck. This was a young man who had reached the peak of the 5th heavenly stage of Tao integration. He seemed to be a genius from the Yuan Tiangong realm and was an admirer of Muqing. Qi Zhao. Yin Tianjiao wasn't afraid of Muqing, but he was very wary of this young man. His divine light flickered, and he took a few steps back. Yin Zhuolong, you've inhaled my yin-yang aphrodisiac powder. Only I can help you get rid of it. If you don't come to my room in 3 days, you'll die of defecation. Yin Tianjiao said proudly to Su Fong. Then, with a flash of divine light, his body turned into nothingness and disappeared into the space inside the treasure ship. Are you okay? Muqing looked at Su Fong and rolled out a xianguang, which floated in front of Su Fong. This is a snow marrow pill. Although it can't save you, it can delay it a little. As long as you hold on for a while longer, I'll ask Chu Bingyan to find a way to get rid of the poison when we reach the Two-World River. Thank you, Miss Muqing. Su Fong reluctantly cupped his fists and swallowed the pill. Miss Muqing, let's go. Why waste a snow marrow pill for an ant? The young man said to Muqing and left the deck with Muqing. Yin Zhuolong, I advise you to listen to Miss Yin. I guarantee you'll feel like dying. Ha ha ha. Su Zhongliang laughed proudly. Many itinerant cultivators looked at Su Fong and shook their heads and sighed. Their hearts were full of sympathy. Some people also advised Su Fong to grit his teeth and endure the humiliation. At least he wouldn't lose his life. From a beginning to the end, Domain Master Wu Jin and the other experts who were escorting the Yuan Tiangong realm genius didn't show up. It was as if they didn't know what was going on. Everyone thought Su Fong wouldn't last for 3 days. Who knew that after 10 days, Su Fong still didn't show any signs of the poison taking effect. They were all very surprised. However, looking at how hard Su Fong was holding on, it was obvious that he wasn't feeling good either. About half a year later, Su Fong was safe and sound. Everyone couldn't help but look at him in a new light. Some people said that he was lucky because the snow marrow pill Muqing gave him worked. Yin Tianjiao didn't show up either. It was as if he had forgotten about Su Fong. The treasure ship flew out of the chaotic area. Everyone flew down from the ship, and Domain Master Wu Jin put away his magic treasure. You're actually fine? Chapter 2360. It's all thanks to your snow marrow pill, Muqing. Otherwise, how could a mere 4th heaven godly venerable realm itinerant cultivator neutralize the yin-yang aphrodisiac powder? The young man named Qi Zhao was not surprised at all. He immediately scoffed at Su Fong. Su Fong cupped his fists at Muqing gratefully. Thank you for your pill. I'll definitely repay your kindness in the future. Yin Tianjiao sneered. Any man I fancy will end up in my bed sooner or later. You may have escaped this time, but you won't be able to escape the next time. Su Fong was trembling and looked like he was scared out of his wits. Muqing frowned slightly. Before we reach the Two Realms River, you'll stay by my side for now. Su Fong could not help but be overjoyed. Thank you. Many itinerant cultivators looked at Su Fong enviously, especially Su Zhongliang. His eyes were filled with jealousy and resentment. Qi Zhao raised his eyebrows. Sister Qing, I'm afraid that's a little inappropriate. He's just an ant-like itinerant cultivator. Muqing said calmly, It's best if you don't worry about my affairs. Qi Zhao smiled sheepishly and glanced at Su Fong. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his deep eyes. Along the way, there were material ruins of various sizes. There were also terrifying auras that would make even over-god powerhouses tremble in fear. The laws of nature were chaotic here. These were the remnants of the battle between venerable sovereigns. It would be difficult for them to recover even after an era. The group did not dare to fly too fast. They could only fly slowly in the air. Su Fong followed closely behind Mu Qing, as if he was afraid that Yin Tianjiao would attack him again. They passed by a ruin that spanned 1,000 miles. Su Fong's divine light changed slightly. Under his great perfection sensing ability, he discovered an ethereal aura hidden in the chaotic void at the end of the material world. Moreover, the aura contained demonic qi. It turned out to be a demonic Dao powerhouse. Moreover, it was a peerless powerhouse who was comparable to a lower-rank lord. None of the region Lord Wujin and the dozen or so other Yuan Tiangong powerhouses flying in front noticed the great danger waiting for them. Su Fong followed the others as they flew forward, thinking about how to solve the problem ahead. Mu Qing's body suddenly emitted a crisp sound of a bell. After being stunned for a moment, she immediately cried out in alarm. "There are experts hiding in front. Everyone, be careful." He didn't expect this woman's senses to be so amazing. She was even more powerful than Region Master Wujin and had discovered the demon race's experts in advance. However, it was obvious that she had relied on her unique divine artifact and not some special sensing ability. Mu Qing's extremely abrupt shout caused everyone to be shocked and stunned. Soon after, they all became nervous. I didn't expect that someone would actually be able to see through my tracks. A figure instantly appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was quite surprised. When they looked over, they saw that it was actually a figure with demonic qi. It turned out to be a demonic expert. Sensing this person's cultivation base, everyone panicked. This was bad. They had encountered a demonic cultivator before even reaching the Two Realms River. Moreover, this demonic cultivator was a peerless over-god expert who had surpassed the region lord level. There are so many women. If I were to suppress all of you and give you to Lord Devil God, what kind of amazing benefits would I obtain? The numerous female cultivators of Primordius Heavenly Palace all paled. The demon race usually captured human women for only one purpose, and that was to use them as embryos to breed the next generation of the demon race. Therefore, once a female cultivator encountered a demon race cultivator, they would rather burn their own god residence than be captured. The male cultivators didn't look any better. When they fell into the hands of the demon race, their fate was usually to be used as a tool for cultivation. Their blood, qi, and primordial spirits would be devoured. Their fate was also extremely miserable. Boom! A gust of demonic qi erupted from the demonic cultivator. In an instant, the demonic qi covered the sky and the sun. The entire material world, including everything on it, was instantly engulfed in a demonic world filled with demonic qi. Oh no! Regent Master Wujin, who was leading the group, turned pale with fright. The others, whether they were Yuan Tiangong geniuses or the many wandering cultivators, all fell into despair. Even a Dao integration pinnacle stage cultivator would be as weak as a chicken in the face of the lowest level of a master god, let alone a demon race cultivator. Region Master Wujin activated a divine weapon that looked like a palace lantern. It released rays of red xianguang, which formed an extremely powerful defensive barrier that kept the demonic qi outside. This divine weapon was a half-creation divine weapon, and Region Master Wujin had activated 70 to 80% of its power. It was enough to withstand the attacks of the demon race cultivator for a while. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief. Everyone, don't take a single step out of the barrier. You'll die if you do. Region Master Wujin shouted, reminding everyone. Boom, 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 boom. The demonic qi outside raged and crashed against the barrier, causing it to shake violently. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths again. Region Master Wujin said anxiously, "That demon race cultivator is extremely powerful. Even with a half-creation divine weapon, I can only hold on for 3 days at most. Hurry up and ask for help from the Yuan Tiangong. It's too late. Let's ask for help from the Two Worlds River. Mu Qing, Yin Tianjiao, Qi Zhao, and the other Yuan Tiangong prodigies all took out rune talismans or divine weapons used to transmit messages and asked for help from the Two Worlds River. This place was not too far away from the Two Worlds River. If they came quickly, they should be able to make it in 3 days. Yin Tianjiao's rune talisman was the first to respond. She shouted proudly, "My clan's peerless prodigy, Yin Buji, will be here with the other Yin clan cultivators. As long as we can hold on for a few days, we'll be saved." Mu Qing and Qi Zhao were next. Mu Qing asked for help from the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm Dao sex prodigy, Chu Bingyan. Qi Zhao also asked for help from an extraordinary person. His cousin was also from the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm Dao sect. His name was Qi Mian. Hearing that so many powerful cultivators were coming, everyone calmed down. "This is strange." Su Fong used the power of the perfected stage and looked outside the barrier. His eyes were filled with doubt. Why was this happening? The defensive barrier released by Regent Lord Wuzhen's divine weapon was very powerful. However, it was difficult to see what was happening outside from the inside of the barrier. Su Fong's current cultivation level was at the peak of the 9th heaven of the Dao integration stage. In addition to his perfected stage physical body, his sensing ability had even surpassed that of an upper-rank lord. Therefore, he could clearly sense everything outside the barrier. The demon cultivator seemed cruel and evil, but he did not put much effort into attacking the barrier. At most, he only used 20 to 30% of his power. It was really strange. Just as Su Fong was sensing the commotion outside, he suddenly sensed someone coming behind him. Su Zhongliang? What is he trying to do? Su Fong could not help but be startled when he sensed the aura of the person behind him. Suddenly, Su Zhongliang unleashed a surge of primordial spirit power that swept towards Su Fong's divine aperture like a flash flood. With the current primordial spirit power of Su Fong's original body and second primordial spirit, only venerable emperors could pose a threat to him. He could completely crush anyone below venerable emperors. Why would he care about the primordial spirit attack of a mere godly venerable cultivator like Su Zhongliang? This Su Zhongliang seeks revenge for the smallest grievance. He really deserves to die. Just as he was about to counterattack, Su Fong's heart skipped a beat. He activated his primordial spirit defense and allowed Su Zhongliang's attack to hit his divine aperture. Then, he pretended as if his primordial spirit had been severely injured. He staggered and fell out of the defensive barrier. Everyone inside the barrier was extremely nervous, and no one noticed Su Zhongliang's actions. "I was humiliated by the witch of the Yin clan, and am living a life worse than death. Yet you're safe and sound. How am I supposed to face you? Get out of here obediently and become that demon cultivator's food." Su Zhongliang was very pleased with his successful sneak attack. Whoosh! Su Fong rolled out of the barrier and immediately flew toward the outside of the physical world. However, the entire physical world was currently enveloped by the demon cultivator's demonic aura and had become a part of his world. Su Fong's cultivation level was only at the 4th heaven of the godly venerable realm. Where could he escape to? After flying for less than 100 miles in the overflowing demonic aura, the demonic aura in front of him rolled and condensed into the demon cultivator's figure. Boy, you might be able to live for a few more days if you stayed inside the barrier. At that time, you could even be buried with those Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses. Now that you've left the barrier, you can only let me have a taste of you. Unfortunately, you're just an ant in the godly venerable realm. You're not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. That demon cultivator was very arrogant. He didn't take Su Fong seriously at all. In fact, in the eyes of a peerless sovereign god, a godly venerable realm cultivator who could be revered in a divine world was indeed no different from an ant. Su Fong was so scared that his face turned pale. He said while trembling, "Since you know there will be Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses coming, why aren't you running for your life?" That demon cultivator snorted disdainfully. This time, I'm going to kill those Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses. As for you guys, you're just a bunch of pitiful bait. Su Fong finally understood. It turned out that the demon cultivator had deliberately trapped these Yuan Tiangong Yellow Realm geniuses here. Then, he would lure the true experts and geniuses here, and then suppress them in one fell swoop. Su Fong continued to trick the demon cultivator. You're just a sovereign god. In Yuan Tiangong, there are many peerless geniuses who can kill you. Aren't you afraid of being suppressed by them instead? Unexpectedly, the demon cultivator was already impatient. He reached out and grabbed at the air. Demonic aura quickly condensed into a huge palm print and firmly grabbed Su Fong. An astonishing amount of demonic poison seeped into Su Fong's divine body. Suddenly, an astonishing aura gushed out of Su Fong's divine body. The palm print that was shackling him instantly shattered. Then, Su Fong took a step forward and charged in front of the demon cultivator. Then, he directly punched out. This punch looked like a mortal martial artist's attack. However, the aura that was released contained a terrifying concept of destruction. It actually caused the world that the demon cultivator had condensed from his divine might to collapse layer by layer. It was as if he could shatter heaven and earth with a single punch. Divine Destruction Fist. What Su Fong was currently using was the supreme divine ability that he had obtained from the Origin Sacred Mirror, the Divine Destruction Fist. This punch was executed with the concept of yin-yang transformation, a perfected physical body, and the power of nine-yang. It possessed the terrifying power of destroying matter, divine abilities, and reverting to one's innate state. The demon cultivator's divine aura changed instantly. Even with his strength as a lesser sovereign god, he felt his heart palpitate at the power of this punch. He even sensed death. An astonishing demonic aura surged from the surface of his body. It quickly condensed into a dark armor defense. A violent and evil aura suddenly erupted and charged towards Su Fong. Boom! The demon cultivator's demonic aura was shattered one after another. Then his body, along with his demonic armor, instantly shattered and turned into demonic chi. Then it was destroyed again and finally disappeared from heaven and earth. Chapter 2361. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses inside the barrier, as well as many rogue cultivators, soon realized that something was wrong outside. The terrifying demonic aura and the demonic aura that had shrouded heaven and earth had disappeared. The pressure on the barrier released by Domain Master Wuzhen's palace lantern was also gone. What's going on outside? Could it be that the demonic cultivator knew that it would be difficult to break the barrier and that the Yuan Tiangong geniuses were coming? So he left? Be careful. Demonic cultivators are extremely cunning. This must be a plot by that demonic cultivator. Everyone was surprised and delighted, but they did not dare to leave the barrier. They waited for a day. There was still no movement outside, so Domain Master Wuzhen sent out a rogue cultivator to investigate. Soon, the rogue cultivator sent a message through the rune talisman. The demonic cultivator was no longer outside the barrier. Could he really have left? Domain Master Wuzhen was puzzled. After waiting for another 2 days, Domain Master Wuzhen could no longer maintain the barrier released by the divine artifact, so he had to put away the palace lantern. Seeing that the demonic cultivator had indeed disappeared, everyone felt as if they had escaped death. Mu Qing took out a Rui-shaped divine artifact. After activating it, she used the divine power of the divine artifact to sense the surrounding heaven and earth. She was surprised. It turned out that her divine artifact was very special. After activating it, it could increase her sensing ability to an extremely shocking level, surpassing the limit of the Tao integration realm and reaching the level of a Lord God. She did not find any trace of the demonic cultivator, but she was shocked to find that there was still a very weak but extremely shocking aura of destruction left in heaven and earth, as well as the aura of the demonic cultivator. That demonic cultivator did not leave, but was killed by a powerful cultivator. This discovery made Mu Qing's head explode. She was shocked. Domain Master Wuzhen suddenly shouted coldly, "Who is it? Come out." Then he reached out and grabbed a mountain 100 miles away with his divine power. Then he grabbed a figure out of the mountain and dropped it in front of him. Cloudy wave? When did this person get outside the barrier? He was not killed by the demonic cultivator. This is unbelievable. When everyone saw the man's face, they couldn't help but be shocked. On the other hand, Su Zhongyang's divine light changed in an instant. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and then there was a wave of panic. Mu Qing carefully sized up Su Fong, and a puzzled look appeared in her eyes. When she encountered the devil Dao cultivator, Su Fong had always been by her side. Now that he had appeared outside and was even able to escape from the hands of the evil devil Dao cultivator, Mu Qing became suspicious. This person must be a devil spy. It must be him who attracted the devil experts. Otherwise, how could he not be killed by the devil experts outside? Su Zhongliang suddenly yelled out. This man was indeed despicable. He was afraid that Su Fong would expose him, hence he struck first to gain the initiative by framing Su Fong. Su Fong had already made everyone suspicious. After Su Zhongliang's words, they really began to doubt him. Who cares if he's a demon spy or not? Let's kill him first, Yin Tianjiao said coldly. Not only was this woman a monster, she was also so ruthless. Mu Qing said, this person definitely isn't a demon spy. Qi Zhao harumphed. Sister Qing, you're not familiar with him. It's best that you don't speak carelessly, lest you get into trouble. Let's shackle him first. We'll interrogate him properly when we reach the Two-Realm River. Wu Jin activated his divine might and was about to shackle Su Fong. Su Fong could not defend himself. At this point, he could no longer hide his strength. His original plan to sneak into the Two-Realm River with a low profile seemed to have gone down the drain. Buzz, 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 just as he was about to attack, a mysterious Dao rune from the heavenly secret life, shrinking skill flashed from the depths of Su Fong's divine aperture. Su Fong immediately dismissed the idea of attacking. It turned out that a few acquaintances had arrived. They were Chu Bingyin, Yin Buji, Qi Mian, a heaven-ranked dojo prodigy from Yuan Tiangong, and a peerless middle-rank lord-level powerhouse. QL 11-inch Mu Qing. Chu Bingyin's voice came from afar. Then, their figures flew over through the air. In this chaotic area, even peerless lords would not dare to use their teleportation abilities by merging with the heavenly Dao, let alone Dao integration cultivators. Therefore, they could only fly. You're here so soon. Domain Lord Wujin's eyes flickered with surprise, and the divine aura enveloping Su Fong immediately dissipated. However, Su Fong was still swept up and sent flying. His body was shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Of course, this appearance was Su Fong's disguise. With his current cultivation base, even upper-rank lords would find it difficult to harm his perfected physical body, let alone Wujin, who was at the peak of Dao integration. Fortunately, we're not too late. Chu Bingyin and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Mu Qing and the others were unharmed. After asking about Su Fong's situation, Yin Buji immediately said, just kill him. What's the point of talking so much? Mu Qing said, Bingyin, this person is definitely not a demon tribe spy. Although she could not be sure, she still felt that Su Fong was very different from the rest. That was why she spoke up to save him. Qi Zhao snorted and said, Chu Bingyin, Mu Qing seems to think highly of this itinerant cultivator called Yun Zhuolang. Chu Bingyin snorted coldly at first. However, when he heard Su Fong's name, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. You're called Yun Zhuolang? After carefully sizing up Su Fong, Chu Bingyin exclaimed, Mr. Zhuolang. Chu Bingyin immediately recognized that this Yun Zhuolang in front of him was Mr. Zhuolang, who had appeared in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. In the divine prison of Heaven's Law, Chu Bingyin had personally witnessed Mr. Zhuolang's shocking performance on the path of Heaven's Law. Not only did he surpass him, he even surpassed Di Yuan. Later, outside the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law, Mr. Zhuolang was nowhere to be seen. Chu Bingyin originally thought that he had already fallen. He did not expect to meet him here. How unlucky! Chu Bingyin recognized me before I even reached the River of Two Realms. Fortunately, my identity as Mr. Zhuang was not exposed in the divine prison of heaven's law. Otherwise, the news of me going to the river of two realms to train would definitely be leaked. Su Fang was also very helpless. There were many other divine weapons and divine abilities that could change one's appearance, but it was very difficult to fool the eyes of a true expert. Only these 3 human skins were left over after the blood and chi of cultivators had been devoured by the death punishment wood. Su Fang combined them with the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Even a venerable emperor powerhouse would find it difficult to see through them. Therefore, Su Fang continued to use them. He had a total of 3 human skins. As for the other 2, he had displayed astonishing strength in the divine prison of heaven's law, and his true identity had already been exposed. Thus, only Mr. Zhuang's identity could be used. He did not expect to meet Chu Bingyan so soon. "Greetings, Your Highness Chu Bingyan." Su Fang cupped his fists respectfully and bowed to Chu Bingyan. "How did you escape from the divine prison of heaven's law?" Black flames surged in Chu Bingyan's eyes as he stared at Su Fang. This person is actually a powerhouse who escaped from the divine prison of heaven's law. Everyone was shocked. Even a middle-rank Lord-level Yuan Tiangong who had rushed over looked at Su Fang in utter shock. Su Zhongliang was trembling, and his face was pale with fright. The news of countless powerhouses dying in the divine prison of heaven's law had long spread throughout the universe. Even several peerless Lord-level powerhouses, and peak Lord-level powerhouses at that, had fallen. Those who had managed to escape were only Su Fang, Chu Bingyan, Qian Gang, and Di Yuan. This Yin Zhuang was actually a powerhouse who had escaped from the divine prison of heaven's law. One could only imagine how astonishing his strength was. Su Fang smiled wryly. "It was pure luck that I was able to escape from the divine prison of heaven's law. After ascending the divine prison of heaven's law, I encountered Luo Xingtian in the side hall outside the main hall and was injured by his prison-suppressing pen. I had no choice but to hide. Then, I took advantage of the moment when all of you entered the main hall to immediately leave the divine prison of heaven's law. That was how I managed to escape by sheer luck." Chu Bingyan was half convinced and half doubtful. He carefully sensed Su Fang, but could not find any clues. Only then did everyone realize that this Yun Zhuang was merely a lucky fellow and could not possibly be a peerless powerhouse. Chu Bingyan, however, sized up Su Fang from time to time. Others might not know, but Chu Bingyan had personally witnessed Su Fang's might on the divine prison of heaven's law. Although it might have been due to the help of a special divine weapon or the great path he cultivated, it was still enough to shock Chu Bingyan to this day. "We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly." The Yuan Tiangong powerhouse who had come with Chu Bingyan and the others said, "As for this person, he's acting suspiciously. Let's shackle him first and investigate him carefully when we reach the Two Realms River." This person was an old man whose cultivation base had reached the height of a middle-rank lord level. His status among the Yuan Tiangong was not low, and no one disobeyed his orders. Zone Master Wuzhen immediately cast a seal, casting the shackle's power into Su Fang's body. Su Fang did not resist and allowed Zone Master Wuzhen to do as he pleased. Everyone quickly flew toward the object where the realm-crossing Stargate was. Su Fang followed the crowd and was closely watched by a dozen or so itinerant cultivators assigned by Zone Master Wuzhen. Su Zhongliang was also one of the cultivators watching over Su Fang. He glanced at Su Fang from time to time with undisguised murderous intent in his eyes. In less than half a day, the object where the realm-crossing Stargate was located appeared within sight. Su Fang cast his great perfection ability and swept the object with his divine light. He saw that there were hundreds of cultivators guarding the realm-crossing Stargate. Then, Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. Su Zhongliang saw Su Fang's expression and sneered. "If you want to escape, you'd better do it now. Otherwise, when we reach the Two Realms River and your identity as a demon spy is exposed, you'll be dead for sure." Su Fang smiled sheepishly and said nothing. The Yuan Tiangong old man suddenly stopped and shouted in a deep voice, something's not right. The cultivators in front of the realm crossing Stargate are not the ones we saw when we first came. As soon as he finished speaking, from a surrounding void, a vast demonic voice spread out. I never imagined that I would be able to capture two heavenly realm Tao, right, geniuses of Primordius Heavenly Palace, as well as a middle sovereign, as well as so many women. This could be considered a great harvest. Jajage, demonic energy surged out of the void and took control of nature within 100,000 miles, turning it into an evil demon realm. We've been ambushed by the demons. Chapter 2362. On the human cultivator's side, there was a middle-rank lord and many unparalleled geniuses. Chu Bingyin and Qi Mian were currently powerful enough to fight a lower-rank lord. Although they were panicked when they were suddenly ambushed by a devil tribe powerhouse, they did not despair. However, as the evil laughter continued to ring out from the void, it attacked everyone's primordial spirits, causing them to fly out of their divine apertures uncontrollably. Only then did they realize that the situation was much more serious than they had imagined. The demon race powerhouse that was hidden in the shadows released a demonic sound that contained an astonishing primordial spirit divine might. Even the middle sovereign of Primordius Heavenly Palace had no choice but to summon the power of his primordial spirit to defend himself, much less the others. Poof! A godly venerable realm itinerant cultivator was the first to lose control of his primordial spirit. It flew out of his divine aperture and was instantly shattered by the demonic sound. It turned into green smoke and was devoured by the demonic chi world. One after another, more than 10 itinerant cultivators followed closely behind. Their primordial spirits broke free of their bodies and were devoured by the demonic chi. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses appear to be faring slightly better. However, they were also struggling to hold on and could not retaliate. It's a devil tribe powerhouse who's skilled in primordial spirit power. Fortunately, I brought my second primordial spirit with me. Otherwise, even my true body's primordial spirit would find it difficult to resist. Among the many cultivators, only Su Fong was unscathed. He had merged his second primordial spirit with his true body and used his primordial spirit divine power to easily suppress and defend his primordial spirit. You're just a mere devil tribe powerhouse. How dare you act so presumptuously? The middle-rank lord from Yuan Tiangong let out a thunderous roar. His primordial spirit divine power erupted and suppressed the demonic sound that was sweeping toward them. Only then did the crowd feel the primordial spirit pressure lessen significantly. At this moment, something unexpected happened. Not far behind the Yuan Tiangong old man, Territorial Lord Wuzhen suddenly attacked. He opened his mouth and spat out a beam of blood-red light that flashed like a bolt of lightning. With a hiss, the blood-red light instantly shot through the Yuan Tiangong old man's back. Even a middle-rank lord's powerful defense could not stop the blood-red light from burrowing into his heart. Domain Lord Wuzhen, how dare you sneak attack me? Are you betraying the human race? The Yuan Tiangong old man was shocked and angry. He turned around and looked at Wuzhen Domain Leader. I was originally a member of the devil race, so how could I betray you? In order to lure you big fishes, I have spent a lot of effort and almost failed. Territory Master Wuzhen grinned fiendishly. His god body changed dramatically. The skin on his face and body started to tear, and the muscles on his face started to wriggle crazily. The muscles all over his body started to tear and expand, and fangs grew out of his mouth. He looked like a humanoid vampire bat. In the blink of an eye, Domain Lord Wuzhen transformed into a hideous middle-aged man with bat-like ears, a face, and a body that didn't belong to a human. He wasn't a cultivator of the devil Tao, but a true devil. All the cultivators turned pale with fright. They didn't expect Domain Lord Wuzhen to be a devil race powerhouse. Moreover, he was no ordinary devil race powerhouse. He was a peerless devil god comparable to a lower-rank lord. Su Fong was also very surprised. What kind of demonic technique did this devil god use? Even with my great perfection ability, I can't sense his devil chi. When Su Fong killed the devil Tao powerhouse earlier, he had guessed that there was a devil race spy among the cultivators. He didn't expect the devil race spy to be Domain Lord Wuzhen. What surprised Su Fong even more was that Domain Lord Wuzhen was actually a devil god in disguise. He had fooled everyone. Even Su Fong had never heard of such a strange and peculiar demonic technique. With Su Fong's great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, he could more or less sense a devil race cultivator's aura, even if he possessed a cultivator's body. Moreover, this devil race cultivator often came and went in and out of Yuan Tiangong. The fact that he hadn't been seen through by the Yuan Tiangong powerhouses showed how powerful his devil art was. Su Fong also had a deeper understanding of the devil race. The devil race is indeed a powerful race that can compete with the human race. They have all kinds of evil and strange techniques and supernatural powers. He knew that he had to use part of his power this time. He secretly activated the power of the world of yin and yang to quickly refine the energy seed that Domain Lord Wuzhen had put into his body. The old man from Primordia's heavenly palace displayed his invincible might and was about to rush towards Domain Master Wuzhen when he suddenly staggered. The blood-red light that had drilled into his heart had begun to crazily swallow up his life essence. All of you will become food for the devil race. Domain Lord Wuzhen smiled viciously. He rolled out a devil chi light and attacked the Yuan Tiangong elder. All rogue cultivators, protect the Yuan Tiangong geniuses and leave this place quickly. The Yuan Tiangong elder forcibly sealed his heart and started a fierce battle with Domain Lord Wuzhen. Yin Tianjiao shouted at the trembling rogue cultivators, "Everyone, come here and protect us as we leave." Although it was called protection, they were actually cannon fodder. The rogue cultivators weren't fools. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses' lives were precious, but their own lives were even more precious. No one paid attention to Yin Tianjiao. They all ran for their lives. The rogue cultivators' actions made Yin Tianjiao gnash her teeth in anger. Seeing that Su Zhongliang was about to escape, Yin Tianjiao activated a red xianguang. It turned into a rope and pulled the two to her side. Yin Tianjiao put away the divine artifact and shouted at the two, "Follow me. Once we leave this place, the Yin race won't mistreat you. If you don't, I'll suppress you right now." Su Zhongliang was scared out of his wits when he fell into the hands of the Yin race monster again. "Wouldn't it be a joke if I let a bunch of ants like you escape from me?" That terrifying demonic voice sounded again. Monstrous devil chi sealed the surrounding area. The terrifying essence spirit pressure swept over like a wave. At the same time, from the material world where the realm-crossing Stargate was, numerous demon gods charged over. Although these demon race experts were only as strong as Dao integration stage cultivators and outnumbered the rogue cultivators, they weren't affected by any restrictions or essence spirit pressure in the world where the demon race experts were hidden. They were like wolves in a flock of sheep. In just a dozen breaths, over 20 rogue cultivators were killed. Chu Bingyan, Qi Mian, and Yin Buji struggled to resist the essence spirit pressure while fighting against the demon race experts. They were barely holding on. Although the Primordia's heavenly palace powerhouse had forcefully sealed away his heart, his strength had also been suppressed. In addition, there was also the demon powerhouse hiding in the shadows. Most of the demonic sound and demonic energy attacks were aimed at him. At this time, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. So many human women, and they're all peerless geniuses of the Yuan Tiangong. The demon race experts sneered and charged toward the Yuan Tiangong female cultivators. Among these Yuan Tiangong female cultivators, Mu Qing and Yin Tianjiao's appearances and auras were the most outstanding. Thus, they attracted special attention from the demon race experts. 2 of them were targeting Yin Tianjiao, while 3 were targeting Mu Qing. Yin Tianjiao's face turned pale with fright. She shouted coldly at Su Zhongliang, "Stop them!" Su Zhongliang had no choice but to fly toward the 2 demon race experts. Unexpectedly, before he could get close, Su Zhongliang suddenly unleashed a burst of divine might that slammed into Su Fong. Su Fong seemed to be shackled and unable to move. She was swept toward the demon race experts. Go to hell. Su Zhongliang sneered and retreated rapidly. However, in the next moment, Su Fang's out-of-control figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. She appeared beside Su Zhongliang. Dao integration stage. You're a Dao integration stage expert. How can you break free from the shackles of domain, Lord Wuzhen? Only Dao integration stage cultivators could merge their bodies with the heavenly Dao and borrow its power to travel through the void. Moreover, they were currently in a world formed by demon race experts. Su Fang was able to teleport. She was definitely not looking for a Dao integration stage cultivator. Moreover, Su Fang had been shackled by domain Lord Wuzhen himself. How could Su Zhongliang not be surprised? Only now did Su Zhongliang realize how powerful this Yun Zhuolong, whom he had mocked and wanted to set up, was. This lowly one had eyes, but failed to see. Spare my life. Just as Su Zhongliang was begging for mercy, Su Fang sent out a burst of shackles into Su Zhongliang's body. Then, she disappeared from his side. QL11, the two demon race experts charged toward Su Zhongliang. One of them opened its mouth and spat out a burst of demon flame that enveloped Su Zhongliang. After a few miserable screams, Su Zhongliang was reduced to a pool of blood in the demon flame and was sucked into the demon race expert's mouth. He was hiding his strength. Yin Tianjiao was shocked to see this. However, she was not as surprised as Su Zhongliang because of her status and strength. She shouted at Su Fang, "Come and protect me. My race will give you supreme opportunities. I can't enjoy the Yin race's opportunities. Miss Yin, you'd better pray for yourself." Su Fang smiled coldly. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Mu Qing. At this moment, three demon race experts, who were equivalent to mid-stage Dao integration stage experts, were about to shackle Mu Qing. Su Fang instantly appeared in front of one of the demon race experts and threw out a punch. The demon race was known for their powerful physical bodies. Seeing Su Fang fight with her physical body, one of the demon race experts couldn't help but laugh in disdain. Then, they charged towards Su Fang and attacked Su Fang with their claws. Boom! The power of the Fist of Annihilation exploded and destroyed the claws and the body of the demon race expert. They were reduced to nothingness by the power of the Fist of Annihilation. There's actually another expert hiding here. A Devil Clan expert activated a magic weapon. It was a devil tool that looked like a wheel. It swirled with a monstrous devil chi. Suddenly, it spun in a strange arc and arrived in front of Su Fang. Boom! 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 Su Fang threw out another punch and shattered the demon weapon into nothingness. Then, he took advantage of the momentum and killed the demon race expert with a punch. Seeing this, the other demon race expert turned pale with fright and used his movement skill to escape. The colossal fist of destruction could be said to be able to kill gods and devils that stood in its way. It was invincible. Seeing the awe-inspiring Su Fang, the eyes of Mu Qing, who had luckily escaped a calamity, were filled with shock and awe. It was not only because Su Fang had killed two Devil Clan experts, but also because Mu Qinglian recalled the aura of the Devil Clan expert who had been killed by Su Fang from the aura of Su Fang's apocalyptic immortal fist. It was the aura of the apocalyptic immortal fist that was unique to the apocalyptic immortal fist. Chapter 2363. Among the many geniuses in Yuan Tiangong, it was not as if there were no geniuses who could defeat lower-rank lords. Over the years, under the nurturing of the Yuan Tiangong, most heaven-ranked dojo geniuses had the ability to contend with lower-rank lords. However, killing an overgod was a different matter altogether. At the level of a lord, one had already reached the pinnacle of cultivation and was practically immortal. Furthermore, which lord-level powerhouse did not possess astounding life-saving techniques? A middle-rank lord-level powerhouse could easily crush a lower-rank lord. However, it was almost impossible to kill the lower-rank lord unless an upper-rank lord intervened. Mu Qing was already certain that Su Fang must have killed the Demon Dao powerhouse from before. This also meant that Su Fang had the ability of an upper-rank lord at the very least, or possessed some heaven-defying divine ability or Dharma treasure. Either way, it was enough to prove that Su Fong was a peerless powerhouse with powerful abilities. How could he be the weakling whom even Yin Tianjiao did not dare to resist? When Yin Tianjiao saw Su Fong's prowess, realization dawned on her instantly. Her face turned ghastly pale, and her mind went blank. While she was distracted, a demon tribe powerhouse activated a demonic light chain and bound her firmly. Then, she was forcefully dragged into the demonic weapon's internal space. When the demons captured human female cultivators, they usually used them as embryos to breed their offspring. Yin Tianjiao, a monster who was both male and female, had been captured by the demons. Who knew what kind of monster they would breed into? "My lord, please save Chu Bingyin." Mu Qing mustered up her courage and asked Su Fong for help. "This Chu Bingyin is a heaven-ranked dojo genius in Yuan Tiangong, but I've saved him time and time again as if I'm his nanny." Su Fong sighed helplessly internally. He definitely had to save Chu Bingyin. Back in the prison suppression codex, his master had entrusted him to Su Fong. After that, he had burned himself to fight Jiang Taijia. There was no way Su Fong would sit back and watch no matter what. Boom, boom. After Su Fong killed 3 devil experts in succession and helped Chu Bingyin out of the predicament, Su Fong turned around and attacked Wuzhen Domain Master. This young master Zhuolong really concealed his strength deeply, and he's displaying his true strength now. Who is he? Why was he unknown before? Chu Bingyin looked at Su Fong's back, and his heart was in turmoil. Faintly, Chu Bingyin matched the figure in front of him with the figure in his memory. He was immediately shocked. Impossible. This young master Zhuolong is definitely not Su Fong. His strength is far inferior to Su Fong's. Besides, the Two Realms River is so dangerous. Su Fong is the only one who can enter the celestial worthy mountain and stop the abnormal change of heaven and earth. How could he be here? I didn't expect that I was actually mistaken. There's actually an expert hidden among these ants. Wuzhen Domain Master abandoned the middle-rank lord in Yuan Tiangong and roared angrily. A cloud of demonic flames swept towards Su Fong, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The Devil Clan expert hidden in the dark let out terrifying demonic sounds that attacked the primordial spirit and wantonly attacked Su Fong's divine aperture. A mere lower-rank lord isn't worthy of me using the great samsara skill. The Fist of Destruction is enough to kill him. Su Fong charged into the cloud of demonic flames, and a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth spread out. The monstrous cloud of demonic flames also shattered layer by layer under the destructive power of the Fist of Destruction. Even the demonic Chi world that the Devil Clan expert had unleashed showed signs of collapse under the terrifying power of the Fist of Destruction. As for the attack of the demonic sounds, Su Fong's second primordial spirit activated the Night Demon superpower and firmly defended his divine aperture. As a result, Su Fong's divine aperture was like an impenetrable canopy. The power of the demonic sound's primordial spirit could not shake it in the slightest. D*M. Where did this expert come from? He actually caused this plan to fail. Wuzhen Domain Master saw that the situation was not good. Filled with hatred, demonic light surged out of his body, and his figure instantly turned into nothingness. He was about to escape. In a flash, the old man in Yuan Tiangong activated a flying sword, and a monstrous sword light enveloped Wuzhen Domain Master and the surrounding area. The demonic light surged and actually shattered the sword light. However, Wuzhen Domain Master was also successfully stopped. Kill. At this moment, the old man in Yuan Tiangong activated his flying sword again. A monstrous sword light enveloped heaven and earth, turning into a real world created by a fierce sword will. It forcibly seized and shattered the world created by the Devil Clan expert. A giant sword formed in the world and slashed toward Wuzhen Domain Master. Demon transformation. An evil and violent aura surged out of Wuzhen Domain Master's body. However, it was not demonic aura, but demonic aura. A Devil Clan expert could actually control demonic aura. It was truly unbelievable. In an instant, Wuzhen Domain Master's body also underwent a heaven-defying transformation. He turned from a ferocious and terrifying devil god into a terrifying demon god that was thousands of miles tall. It was a monster with a dragon head and a tortoise body. There was a towering mountain on the tortoise shell that released an astonishing defensive divine power. Chi! The giant sword shattered the mountain on the tortoise shell and landed on the tortoise shell. Unexpectedly, with a loud crack, the giant sword shattered layer by layer. However, only a crack appeared on the tortoise shell, and it instantly recovered to its original state. What kind of divine power is this? Even my most powerful attack can't do anything to it? The old man in Yuan Tiangong looked at the dragon-headed tortoise in horror. Due to his heavy injuries, the attack just now had exhausted all of his strength. His aura had become sluggish, and it was difficult for him to attack again. With my supreme divine power, no one can hurt me unless it's an upper chief god or a divine creation artifact. The tortoise raised its head, and there was disdain in its eyes. Watch how this young master breaks your tortoise shell. At this moment, Su Fong leaped across the sky and attacked with the full power of the Fist of Destruction. Boom! QL11, Su Fong's fist landed on the tortoise shell. This scene looked as laughable as an ant trying to shake a mountain. However, no one could laugh. Crack, crack, crack. The tortoise shell cracked layer by layer, and the terrifying destructive power made it difficult for the wounds to heal. In the end, the tortoise shell shattered into countless pieces. Wuzhen Domain Master screamed. His body, which had lost its tortoise shell, was a bloody mess. He quickly wriggled and transformed back into a human cultivator. However, his aura was sluggish, and he looked like he was seriously injured. He stared at Su Fong and asked, "Who are you?" "This young master comes from the Turbid Wave realm. My name is Young Master Turbid Wave," Su Fong said domineeringly. "Turbid Wave realm? No matter who you are, you'll die if you dare to make an enemy out of my clan." A mighty demonic sound came from the void again, and it transformed into countless blood-colored bats that could only be seen with the power of the primordial spirit. Each of them was 1,000 feet long and covered the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The bats circled Su Fong and emitted a hollow primordial spirit sound. They actually penetrated the defenses of the divine aperture and attacked Su Fong's primordial spirit. The power of the primordial spirit attack released by these strange bats was enough to kill a peak upper-rank sovereign. If it weren't for the fact that Su Fong's original body cultivated the undying soul codex and had a strong primordial spirit and a second primordial spirit, the soundless primordial spirit sound waves released by the bats would have obliterated his primordial spirit. I can't underestimate any demon expert. Su Fong was extremely wary of the strength of the demon experts. He immediately merged his original body's primordial spirit with his second primordial spirit and executed Night Demon Supreme primordial spirit ability. A terrifying primordial spirit aura that could devour and fuse primordial spirits formed a hollow primordial spirit vortex around the divine aperture. Primordial spirit abilities were extremely rare in the first place. Furthermore, Su Fong had never exposed the fact that he possessed a powerful primordial spirit ability before, so he wasn't afraid of exposing his true identity. As the primordial spirit vortex spiraled and howled, it actually distorted and disintegrated the primordial spirit attacks of the blood-colored bats before swiftly devouring them. That wasn't all. Those blood-colored bats were originally the demon experts that had been hiding in the dark. They were transformed from the power of the primordial spirit. Under Su Fong's primordial spirit aura, they actually flew uncontrollably towards Su Fong, their figures rapidly becoming blurry. The blood-colored bats completely lost their ferocious and terrifying appearance from before. Instead, they were filled with terror as they struggled to escape into the void. However, under the devouring power of Su Fong's primordial spirit vortex, most of the blood-colored bats were still forcefully devoured. Less than a fifth of them managed to escape. Night Demon, I didn't expect you to be a human cultivator controlled by Night Demon. Night Demon is the natural enemy of the demon clan. I admit defeat this time. The demon expert that had been hiding in the dark let out a cry of surprise. Then his voice gradually faded away, and then there was no more sound. It's really detestable. I can't use the identity of Mr. Turbid Wave anymore. I'm so unlucky. Why didn't I carefully deduce and choose an auspicious date before coming to the Two-World River this time? Su Fong's expression became very unsightly, and he was extremely depressed. Why was this so? Night Demon was a legendary existence. Very few ordinary cultivators knew of its existence. However, those ancient immortal clans and the superpowers with a long history naturally wouldn't forget that Night Demon had once controlled countless human cultivators and brought a great disaster to the world of cultivators. Now that the demon expert had revealed that he was possessed by Night Demon, how could those Yuan Tiangong experts not be wary of Su Fong? How could Su Fong not be depressed when he was already regarded as Night Demon before reaching the Two-World River? It would be a big problem to enter the Two-World River in the future. Sure enough, as Su Fong expected, as soon as the demon expert finished speaking, the surviving cultivators, including the middle-level overgod from Yuan Tiangong, as well as the Yuan Tiangong geniuses such as Chu Bingyan, Qi Mian, and Yin Buji, were all shocked and looked at Su Fong in horror. Qi Zhao, who had once mocked Su Fong, was so frightened that his face turned ashen. His whole body trembled, and he almost couldn't fly. Mu Qing and the other Yuan Tiangong female cultivators originally admired Su Fongda from the bottom of their hearts when they saw Su Fong's invincible might. But now, they were all scared out of their wits. Su Fong's divine light swept over and saw that Domain Master Wuzhen had already disappeared without a trace. Many demon experts had also escaped. Domain Master Wuzhen, don't even think about escaping from me. Su Fong's divine body quickly turned into nothingness and blended into nature as he chased after Domain Master Wuzhen.